call this meeting to order. The time is 9:03, same as the last meeting, not a minute before, a minute after. Could I ask Madam Administrator to read the acknowledgement?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge with respect the history and living culture of the Anishinaabe, the people of the three fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi Nation, who have inhabited this land from time immemorial. We recognize that these are the territories of the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, collectively known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the keepers of this land. Georgian Bluffs is located on lands encompassed by treaties 45 1/2, 67, 72, 82, and 93. We reflect on our role as treaty people and the need to live in respect and peace and show respect to the first peoples who inhabited these lands and these waters.
Thank you very much. Does any member have a declaration of pecuniary interest to declare or any conflicts to declare? None, for the record. With respect to the agenda, I take it everybody's had the opportunity to look at the agenda. And I would ask for a mover and seconder that the agenda be approved as presented. Is there any discussion? I ask for a mover or second. I have a mover being Member Colbert, seconder being Member Rooney. Carried. With respect to the minutes, we've all had the opportunity to read the minutes. With respect to approving the minutes, that the minutes of the Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board meeting held on September 23rd be adopted. Is there a mover and seconder? We have a mover being Member Wood and a seconder. Thank you, Member Kirkland. Is there any discussion? Go ahead.
Sorry for missing the last meeting, Joe. I was just wondering if there was any follow-up on the motion about satisfaction, reaching out to the other municipalities about the satisfaction survey.
Go ahead.
I can speak to that, Mr. Chair. We took it away as an action item, and Georgian Bluffs is connecting with all of the respective communications teams throughout the detachment to hold some type of community together. Sorry, I'll speak up. Sorry, that's okay. I'll speak.
Yeah, so that was the action item. Has there been any outcome from that?
Not yet. We'll have something for the November meeting.
Thanks.
You hear that, Carl?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Sure.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry, just to clarify, is that engagement with the community at large or just with the member municipalities?
We're coordinating a larger community detachment engagement, but that has to be facilitated through each member municipality. So that's what's taking so long, I guess I'll just say.
I just noticed that Member Soros is on the screen. Did you have anything to add to that? Good morning. Okay.
Good morning, and thank you, Chair, and I have nothing to add at the
So there was
moment.
no discussion with respect to that, and all in favor of the minutes be approved, adopted, opposed if any, none, carried. Okay, now to the meat, public participation. Any person who wishes to make a presentation to the board must register with the board administrator at least 10 days in advance of the scheduled meeting. To register, you can complete the online form, and it is laid out with an address as Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board /delegations, or call the board administrator at, for the record, it is 519-376-2729, extension 601. And I see our presentation is going to be with OAPSB, and I'm going to read the recommendation to receive the presentation, that the presentation be received for information. Do we have a mover? Member Coburn, do we have a second? Member Rooney. And we are going to welcome Janine Berglund. And is there any, first we'll let Janine speak, and then we'll see if there's discussion on it, and then we'll call the vote. And good morning, Janine.
Good morning, and good morning to everyone. I'm thrilled to be here today and really excited to share some information with you about the OAPSB, about your responsibilities, and inadvertently the CSPA. I see some familiar faces in the room, so hello to those I've seen before. I'm really looking forward to sharing this information. So just a little bit of housekeeping here. Jody, I just need to know, are you going to put the slide deck up on the screen, or do you want me to share screen?
We can put it up on the screen.
Okay, then I will have you advance the slides as I go. Also, for questions, I find virtually it's difficult to ask questions because when I'm presenting, sometimes I can't always see what you're seeing, everybody in the audience. So if it's okay, let's save the questions until the end. It's a very high level presentation, but we can get into the details during the question period if you'd like. All right, so we can advance that first slide. Let me just go up here. So one of the questions we get asked all the time is, how did these detachment boards come into existence? So before April 2024, not every community that was policed by the Ontario Provincial Police had a board. In some areas, they had advisory committees, and in some cases, they had nothing at all. That meant that there were gaps in local accountability and uneven representation from community to community. The province recognized that model wasn't fair or consistent, and so the new Community Safety and Policing Act created detachment boards to fix that. Now, every municipality or First Nation that receives policing from the OPP has the opportunity to participate in governance. This model gives communities a collective voice in how policing priorities are set and how performance is monitored. It's not about managing the police. It's about ensuring policing reflects your local realities and values. The shift also aligns local input with the provincial policing strategy. So that's what's happening in one detachment area connects to broader goals like road safety or community well-being and crime prevention. Finally, these boards bring greater transparency. Meetings must be public, agendas must be posted, and the community can see how decisions are made. And that's a big change from the past, and it's meant to build public trust. So quickly, you exist to make sure that local voices are heard, priorities are fair, and the system works the same way for every community, large or small, north or south. Next slide. So Section 68 of the Community Safety and Policing Act sets out 6 key duties for every detachment board. These responsibilities maybe sound a bit straightforward, but each one represents a different part of your oversight function, and together they define what good governance looks like in practice. First, selecting and supporting your detachment commander. The detachment commander is the operational lead for your area, as you know. You don't hire or fire this person, but you do participate in the selection process to provide feedback when there are vacancies or acting appointments. You also support them by ensuring your expectations are clear and consistent. Setting local priorities, every board must determine their objectives and priorities for policing in their area. That also needs to align with the provincial policing plan and the local community safety goals. So this is your opportunity to make sure your community's specific issues like rural crime or road safety or mental health or youth engagement and items like that are reflected in the detachment's work. The third cog in the wheel here is advising the detachment commander. So boards act like a sounding board for local concerns and provide input on policing matters that affect residents and municipalities. This keeps communication open and proactive. Monitoring performance. So oversight means staying informed. I'm sure your detachment commander who attends every meeting is bringing with them data. So it's not, again, about their day-to-day operations, it's about whether the priorities that you've identified in the local action plan are being achieved. Boards do this by reviewing reports, asking good questions, and following up on results. And in reviewing those reports, the detachment commander provides regular updates, as we said, and boards are expected to review these publicly during meetings and use them to inform decision-making and community dialogue. The last step here, reporting back each year by June 30th, the board must provide an annual report to all the municipalities and First Nations in their detachment area that have been represented by their board. This is your formal accountability step, and it's important to show progress, transparency, and stewardship of local policing priorities. So think of this as the detachment commander will give you an annual summary of what's happened, but then the board will add their notes and information. And we do have something on the OAPSB website, a guide for these annual reports, but I'll talk more about what's available at the OAPSB in just a little bit later. Next slide. Once your board understands its responsibilities under this legislation, the next step is to get operational. And I think that your board is likely getting to that step right now. There's some cadence here, but for those in the audience that may not know, we think of this as moving from the we exist to now we're functioning. These actions build your foundation for everything else that you'll do. You're going to start with making sure that every member has taken the oath of office and completed their criminal record check and registered and completed their mandatory training through the Ontario Police College. It's important to keep records of that completion, given that the thematic training is required to be completed within 6 months of the appointment of each board member. So one of the things that we do see from time to time is that if somebody hasn't completed their training within 6 months and they're making decisions on the board, you fall out of compliance. If they haven't completed that training and they are not able to participate on the board, you risk having quorum. So it's really important that you keep track of that training. The next item, your term of reference. Think of this as the contract between your participating municipalities and the board. What are they going to support you with? What are the municipalities going to decide as far as finance is concerned, how the board budget will be apportioned, what percentage each community is going to pay. Early on in the adoption of the CSPA and in our transition training, we talked a little bit about how to do that. So if anybody needs some clarification, we can go through that. In essence, what will happen is if municipalities cannot agree on the apportioning of the board budget, then the rule is clear that it will be apportioned evenly between all participating communities. For setting your meeting expectations, your cadence, who is appointing or recruiting community members, all of that kind of information is set up in your term of reference. You're going to establish your regular meeting schedule, which I see that you have here. You're going to create your budget and cost sharing plan, secure insurance and administrative support, develop some of your core policies and procedures, and build your public presence. The CSPA has been very, very clear now that everything needs to be on your website. They're no longer accepting that the board has paper minutes and keeping them. And I think that's probably fairly consistent with the direction that most public entities are headed today. Next slide. So the Community Safety and Policing Act outlines what every detachment board must do, but the act doesn't tell you how to do those things well. And that's where governance excellence comes in. And that's where, coincidentally, the OAPSB comes in. The how is about culture. It's about board skills, transparency expectations, communication, community engagement, and accountability. It's all about turning those legislative duties into real-world practices that earn trust and produce better outcomes. So, for example, when the Act says you're responsible to review reports, good boards can go a little bit further. They publish summaries of those reports, or they discuss the results of those reports in open meetings and show the community how this feedback shapes the work that they do. When it says set priorities, strong boards engage local partners. They look at each community's community safety and well-being plan. They engage with community partners in vulnerable sectors to talk about the challenges that they face, so that when it comes time for the local action plan to be created and given to you for review, you have some real good information about your communities and represent and ensure that it's been represented in that local action plan. Your governance culture, sorry for the delay there, I just took a sip of coffee. Think of it like this. Compliance is the floor and excellence is the ceiling. I like to sometimes build a picture for folks that help better understand this. Your governance culture then, and what we're talking about in this slide, is everything that happens in between the floor and the ceiling. So these may also impact how your policies and bylaws are developed. So we have a minimum list on the OAPSB website of policies under the Act that are recommended. But that doesn't mean that as a board, you can't decide to put more in place that's reflective of how you operate and reflective of the excellence you're trying to achieve. So for instance, you would have all received an email from me on a new communication template that's been created. Communication is not an expectation under the CSPA as communication. They say transparency and accountability. But sometimes in order to enact that transparency and accountability, we need extra bylaws like a communication bylaw that will help us do that. Let's go to the next slide. Where your board's responsibilities move from policy to practice is what we call governance in action. This means taking those legislated duties and advising, monitoring, reviewing, and reporting and putting them into a living cycle that drives accountability. So we've talked about that. Turning your priorities into measurable results is one of the ways that you can set your local policing priorities and make them actionable. So this is where you work with your detachment commander and agree on how you'll measure success. For example, if road safety is a top priority, then what data or indicators will you use to monitor progress? And when we say monitor progress, I'm not only talking about this snapshot in time, it's important to perhaps take a look at what we were facing last year at this time, or look at trends over time, and ask your detachment commander about their perception of what the data means, or their perception or analysis of what you're looking at. It's important to engage in a strong relationship with your detachment commander, who I assume is sitting in the room. So hopefully that's okay. This partnership is the cornerstone of your success, though. So maintaining open communication and a collaborative approach will be helpful. Schedule regular check-ins, understand the local action plan and how it's been created. And I know right now at the time of the enforce of the CSPA, the strategic priorities that are set by the commissioner and the local, and as a result, excuse me, the drill down to the local action plans for the last action plan cycle. Sorry, did somebody have a question? Okay, I'll keep going. For the last action plan cycle, we're not compliant to the CSPA. And I know that the OPP has been working very, very hard to prepare for this upcoming local action planning cycle to be compliant with the CSPA. So if it's helpful for all of you in the room, some of this is going to be new to your detachment commander as well. And this is the perfect time for you to establish what that will look like for your board and for your detachment area going forward. Let's go to the next slide. So there are some common missteps that we hear from boards all the time. Every new detachment board is going to go through a learning curve, and that's okay. Remember at the beginning of this, we said this is going to be new for some communities who never had a board before. The wonderful thing that we do have in place, though, is a ministry and an inspectorate of policing who's very supportive of the fact that this is new for everyone, and it's going to take some time for everyone to fall into compliance. But we want to ensure that boards are not confusing governance with operations. The board doesn't direct the day-to-day policing functions. Your role is to set expectations and monitor progress and hold the system accountable. think of yourself as setting the what and reviewing the how it's going, not deciding the how to do it approach to things. Many boards underestimate how much structure matters, and without a defined agenda process, consistent meeting schedule, or clear reporting rhythm, the board loses focus and credibility. So that's one area that we find gaps. Third, overlooking transparency and communication. Some boards unintentionally operate like closed committees. And again, I think these are we'll say, inexperience from time to time, particularly in those communities who haven't operated with a police board in the past. The other thing is that we don't want let's call it, some legacy issues exist in the past where boards were operating more like a committee of council as opposed to an independent board. So let's talk about those the legislation again and what it's requiring as far as transparency. So posting your agendas, which I know that you do, posting your minutes, which I know that you do, posting your policies, posting your local action plan, and even activities beyond that and engaging the public are what are going to help you earn trust. Treating the board as a volunteer committee instead of a governing body. While most members volunteer their time, the expectations are of a professional nature, and we've seen a lot of boards struggle with this. Given that the CSPA is very, very detailed and is showing a lot more, we'll say, rigor in the accountability of boards, we are finding that board members who had experience of the past are now looking at these responsibilities and thinking they're overwhelming. So recognizing the professional nature of this and recognizing that when you sit on the board, there are expectations and some risk for you, which is why insurance is required. Let's see here. There are a number of them on the screen, but if we go to the next slide, I want to focus on two. Some of the biggest challenges for new detachment boards is finding their collective identity. Many members come from municipal councils or local administration, and it can be hard to switch from representing a municipality to governing for the entire detachment area. The most effective boards are those that learn to set aside their individual municipal hats and think from a regional governance lens in what's best for the detachment as a whole, not just one community. And again, when we're looking at boards that are representing multiple communities, this sometimes can be really challenging. That's when, of course, collaboration and communication between boards becomes critical to avoid mixed messages to the detachment commander. So what we're saying here is engaging in some really good discussion and making sure that you're challenging each other is an important step in your journey towards excellence in governance. Another common gap is recognizing the need for board development. Governance is a learned skill, and under the Community Safety and Policing Act, boards have ongoing responsibilities that require some capacity building, not just compliance. Because many boards are cost shared between municipalities, training and development budgets are often the first thing cut or never discussed at all. So investing in governance training isn't a luxury. It's how boards meet the spirit and intent of the legislation. So a well-trained board is more efficient and more credible and less likely to make costly mistakes. The takeaway here really is simple. Success depends on a shared purpose, professional growth, and a collective mindset. It's about representing your municipality, but it's also about representing your entire community within the larger system. And the next slide. One of the advantages of being a part of this provincial network is that you're not starting from scratch. The OAPSB has developed a growing library of tools, templates, and reference materials specifically for OPP detachment boards. They're designed to help you translate the legislation into real-world practices. You can start with the OAPSB website, and during our discussion groups that happen monthly, we do a quick tutorial to walk you through the site, but we also highlight areas that are new or information that's new. That members portal houses downloadable tools like a term of reference template to sample policies for finance communication, and most recently, the detachment commander evaluation process. These materials are living documents that evolve as best practices develop across the province. And so our goal is to have everyone kind of step up in their competence together so that we get to a baseline and then we can take governance a little bit further. The one thing that I want to highlight on the website, is the Governance Insights blogs. And this is where we publish practical lessons from the field. So if you will, case studies and local examples of topics like how to build transparency into your meeting processes, or how to evaluate performance fairly, or how to manage multi-municipal dynamics. Also, your regional zone meetings are another excellent resource. They're not just networking events, they're also opportunities to share and troubleshoot common challenges with other detachment boards. Just remember that you can reach out directly for help at any time. You don't have to wait for a discussion group or a formal training session. The OAPSB training inbox and my email are open for support, and they're at the end of this presentation. So whether you're stuck on policy wording or trying to interpret something under the Act, you just need to ask. Governance improves when boards talk to each other. And the goal is for every detachment board to feel supported, capable, and connected. The next slide. So what happens after today? The most important thing is to keep your momentum going. The work you're doing is bigger than just meetings and reports. It's about building a governance culture that will carry your community forward for years to come. I hope you are all feeling very special. First, establishing your rhythm and getting your meetings on the calendar and confirming your communication channels and defining who's responsible for what is very, very important. But consistency will create the credibility. Review your term of reference and begin building your local policies, and even start with small policies that you know are going to be expected, like an expense policy. This helps bring structure to how the board operates and will help you connect to your peers. The OAPSB discussion groups are a great place to learn from other boards. That's where you can hear some ideas or see examples and realize how quickly that you're not alone in figuring all of this out. Use the Governance Insights blogs and other OAPSB resources as your ongoing guide, because they're there to help you take what's in the legislation and turn it into practical, real-world governance. And then plan for your development. Governance isn't a one-time orientation. It's a skill that continues to grow with time. The next slide. So we say here, governance isn't a destination, it's a practice. Keep building, keep learning, and keep the conversation going. Follow us on our social channels. You can download our app. What I can tell you is that we will be going through some big changes come January. We will be moving to a new branding platform, and we will be updating all of our tools, including the website. So there's lots to come. And that's all I have for the presentation.
Do we have questions for Janine? I'm sure there's some. Go ahead.
Maybe Chair, and through you, I have several questions, but I'll go one at a time here. Thank you to Janine. Are you still with us, Janine?
I am.
Okay, awesome. I found the last member discussion forum really helpful. There were 3 people in attendance and they were all from this board, which was like having our own private training session. I will say that the members portal, with apologies, Janine, it's not as user-friendly as I would like it to be, and certainly the login process is challenging. So I like that you run folks through that during the discussion forum. One of the documents I've tried to print out is the minimum policy list, and it's linked to a different printout. It's linked to the detachment board startup checklist. So I wonder if you could take a look at that, and would it be possible to send us by email that document, the minimum policy recommendations list?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I can tell you, we know that the website is quite challenging, and so just for some history on it, when the website was first created, it was just meant to be a bookmark on the internet for the OAPSB. The OAPSB was not a functioning support association. It really was in place for years and only hosted two conferences a year and some zone meetings. So we've grown well beyond that, and we do recognize that the website is cumbersome as a result. We like to refer to it internally as we've Frankensteined that site to death, given the tools that we have. So the new website will be user-friendly, and we've given some marching orders to our partners in the development side, saying we really would like a 2-click process. If you can't find what you're looking for in 2 clicks, then it's going to be too complicated. So hopefully that will help address some of those issues. But I will look into the link for the minimum policies.
Thank you. Can I just have a couple follow-ups to that,
Absolutely.
along the same lines? Can staff access the same resources as we do through the members portal? I'm hoping the answer is yes, but the checklist and the policy templates, all of that, I think would be super useful to our admin support as well.
So the answer is yes. Everybody is assigned a unique login ID. And again, with time and the transition to our new website and tools, we are hoping that all of the tools that we use now will only require one login ID. This is why we also ask for contact details for all of the board members, and we ask the administrators keep that up to date with us as your board members change over. This is to make sure that you all have a profile in our system and you can all access the tools, including administrators.
So just the last one is the board communication policy that you referenced, Janine. I did print that off. I wonder if a better place to discuss moving forward with certain policies would that come later in the agenda, or is now the time to engage with staff as well? Yeah, is that okay with you? So the communication policy template is a really useful document. And we probably, I'm guilty of not looking at our procedure bylaw within the last little while. But I wonder if we could ask staff to look at what communication procedures or policies we have in the procedure bylaw, cross-reference it with the suggested communication policy template, and either beef up our procedure bylaw or have a standalone communication policy. Do you have any thoughts on that, staff?
Go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Staff has been in the midst of developing a communications policy. However, we've been doing so in the absence of the OAPSB documents. So we will take that direction, use the documents, and ensure that this board's policy is reflective of the documents that OAPSB is generating.
Thank you. Again, do you need a motion for that? Or are we good just with?
Madam Clerk, would you like a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think because the work is already ongoing, we can just take that feedback and incorporate it into our work that's ongoing.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just a couple of comments from your presentation. Thank you for that. Is with regards to mandatory training and the point about regional zone meetings. I know previously when we had our own local police services boards, we attended the zone meetings. And there was the opportunity to network not only with the higher level of agenda items, but you stressed that's sort of quite important. The presenter.
Sorry, is that a question? They are important.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Just to add more depth to what those 2 points about mandatory training and the regional zone meetings.
Okay, so the mandatory training, again, it is a requirement under the CSPA and the legislation. There's 4 modules that need to be complete. The roles and responsibilities training that needs to be complete before you can even sit on the board.
Maybe,
And make
maybe
it,
just interact, I guess I'm thinking about continual training, or maybe I was thinking more of continual training.
okay, all right. So the mandatory training as set out is only at the beginning of your tenure as a board member. The OAPSB is in the middle right now of a transfer payment agreement with the Ontario government to look at ancillary training that will take things much, much deeper for board members and help them realize the depth of some of the roles and responsibilities that you face, but also the, let's say, the challenges that you face. So one of the first modules, if anybody attended our spring conference, we did some teaser training at the spring conference. We had topics like the rules of engagement for boards, you know, how to get yourself organized and host really good meetings. We had measuring and assessment. We had police culture as a topic. There were a number of topics that were there, and they were meant to be teasers for larger, more in-depth modular training that we are developing with the help of the government. Our long-term goal is to also look at professional development for board members who are interested in certifications through their local colleges and universities, and even offer micro-credential learning. With respect to the zone meetings, we do find the zone meetings are helpful. Number one, we all know that we can get a bit myopic when we're only focusing on our community. So sometimes it is important to attend those zone meetings to see what's common, what's not common, where we can share information, what's happening even on the municipal side for municipal boards. So it is a nice collaborative approach. They're generally held, as you know, in concert with the OACP meetings that happen in the zones. And are usually quarterly meetings. Some zones only have 2 a year, some zones have 4 a year. The reason why we encourage that is that from time to time, they also have guest speakers that may be talking about activities or topics that are of importance to you, and that's information that you can take back to your board. One of the things that we didn't touch on in the presentation, but again, is another one of those orbiting issues with respect to board cadence and board governance. Having a policy for people who do attend on behalf of the board about bringing back information to the board. What did you learn? What information is necessary for the board to understand? And so that would be, again, it's not a requirement under the CSPA, but when we look at best practices in governance, it might be something the board wants to consider in their procedural bylaw. I hope that answered your questions.
Just to follow up, yeah, thank you very much. And I think that we all can't attend training, but to share that training, and I know Kathy behind me here has done that from others with regards to that OSB conference and that. So I think that's something if we can strive to, we all can't attend everything, but I think that's important that we share what we learn. And also thank you very much for the discussion around regional zone meetings, because I know in the past I found them very beneficial, but again, you know, as long as you share that information. So I don't know if that's how we grow and understand it. I know Jody, you sent some stuff out about those regional zone meetings, but at some point I think maybe we need to have a further conversation, because I think there's a lot around our table that aren't really familiar with that as well. So thank you for that.
One of the things that we do find, again, through you, Chair, one of the things that we do find helpful for boards is in your annual development cycle somewhere that you identify all of, we'll call it in the perspective of your ongoing pursuit of governance and your own board development. Look at all of the activities that are available annually and then select how many members are going to attend that and budget for it. It's a great way to plan. It's also a great way to set expectations then for those that do attend these activities to be able to prepare themselves to collect information and data and report back.
Any further questions? Kathy?
Sorry, you should probably go to someone
I'm
else.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. So I appreciate that I'm new at this board, and I appreciate that there's new legislation that is driving our activities and our objectives. I guess I'm not clear yet on how we get to that point of setting our priorities as a group. And I'll reflect on some of my past experience where you engage stakeholders, you look at data, you gather as a group and have a conversation. But and maybe that's all work that we've planned and have scheduled to do. But I'm without that list of duties, Joanne, that you referred to, I'm not seeing yet where we're going to get to that end state around establishing local priorities based on data and based on input from our stakeholders. And I appreciate that's one perspective around the table, and any guidance that the association could give us in getting there, because there is new legislation driving our activities, I think would be helpful.
Okay, through you again, Chair. This is the responsibility of the board. This is exactly what we're talking about. So you need to find time in your meetings then and in your annual cycle to determine when you are going to assign, let's say, the review of the community safety and well-being plans in each one of your communities and bring back that information to the rest of your board. That information then collectively will be how you decide on the feedback that you're going to give your detachment commander, who is responsible to build your local action plans. Those local action plans are the essence, we'll say, and the foundation of the work that your board is going to do in representing your detachment area. So part of the responsibility of the board then is to also include the time for planning and when you're going to accomplish that. And I'm sure your detachment commander, knowing that we're coming on a new local action plan cycle, is going to be able to also provide you some guidance on that. And hopefully I haven't just thrown him under the bus.
Go ahead.
Janine, one of the concerns that we have talked about is the structure of boards, and I assume we're all in the same boat, and I'm interested to hear your response with respect to continuity. We've talked about training, initial training, ongoing training, but our boards are made up of a group of politicians that, as I understand it, when the next election arrives, could all be gone, or their representatives from their municipalities could be replaced. That same situation would apply to community representatives, which there is a turnover because those who have not yet been representative would take over, and those already on the board would be replaced. And as a provincial appointee, I was appointed for 1 year, was just notified of my renewal. Well, I might have been gone. And so I'm just concerned that all this training and even staff, administrative staff, changes occur. People leave, move on to new jobs. And so how can we ensure, and I'm not suggesting I have an answer, but how can we ensure that that doesn't occur down the road, that all these efforts to train people just dissipate with an election?
Yes, that's a really important question to ask, given that we are almost in election season again. So that is, it is one of the challenges, let's say, of good governance, and how we are guiding boards through that today is to make sure that you have transition plans and succession plans in place. So that means good board orientation for new members coming in. That means even likely a handoff process. So just because you weren't reelected or your term will change, you have that period from October elections to January to help with the transition of that board activity, making sure that documents are up to date, making sure that new members understand not only their training responsibilities and requirements, but that they have ample information in order to keep the continuity of your local actions going on. And respectfully, we face that on the same side with detachment commanders who often roll through the detachment commander role. That is quite a transitioning role for the OPP. And we know that, they leave information there for the next detachment commander to be able to pick up and run. So it's in essence the board's responsibility to make sure that the cadence and the transition goes fairly seamlessly. That's not to suggest the new board in reviewing their Community Safety and Policing Act may not have further areas of interest that they would like to see pursued, but again, that will be their responsibility going forward. It's a challenge.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I hope we can come back to Member Ellis's remarks. I don't want to lose that because I too feel like we're moving forward, but it doesn't feel like it's following a particular cycle. And I see it much like we do with our budget planning. We look at the data, the community feedback. We then get together and have a strategic session. What are we going to focus on? What's missing? What are we doing well? From that, we develop our local plan of action that has measurables in it so that we can evaluate it. We have, for our municipality, that process is all outlined in a nifty little chart showing the cycle, thanks to Sam.
Yeah.
I wonder if it wouldn't be helpful for this board and future board members to see that in the diagram as well, so we know what the sequence in the cycle looks like, if we don't already. So I just didn't want to lose that because I think that was a really important point. Going back, Janine, if I can, to the training, you said something that's a little more nuanced than perhaps what we are understanding here or have heard here. You said there is minimum training that has to be completed before a member can even attend a board meeting. So if that's not reflected in our procedure bylaw, then I think it ought to be. Looking at Jody. I'm not sure if that's reflected, but I wonder if we could also look to make sure that that's in there, because we have heard some differences of opinion there. Yes, they can attend, they just can't vote. Yes, they can attend and discuss, but they just can't vote. So am I on the right track there, Janine?
You are indeed. So there was some confusion at the beginning when the CSPA was first enforced, only because the training wasn't necessarily available right away. So there were some challenges in getting boards operational with the lag that existed at the Ontario Police College. Today, the expectation is that a board member needs to complete the roles and responsibilities training. They can certainly attend your police board meetings. They're open meetings anyway, but they shouldn't be engaged in feedback or voting, strictly not voting, if they have not completed at least Module 1. And then they have 6 months to complete Module 2, 3, and 4.
Thank you. And so I wonder if we've talked a lot about what our procedure bylaw has and what it doesn't have, and is it robust enough? I wonder if we should be looking at cross-referencing our procedure bylaw with the Association of Police Service Boards Terms of Reference template. Or has that already been done, Jody, just to make sure we're not missing anything? I know we had to put together a procedure bylaw, which other places call terms of reference, but we did that as quickly as we could. But I do wonder if we've covered everything in there that we ought to cover, and maybe staff could give us a bit of a report on what they feel is missing or needs to be developed further.
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, I will absolutely defer to the clerk because she can write that procedure bylaw, but we can absolutely take the direction back to review it and add anything that you think is missing. But I will defer to Carly, if that's okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we would be happy to have a look. We would be happy to have a look at the material that the OAPSB has in their member portal and compare it with the approved procedure bylaw. One of the things that we are continuing to do as administrators for this board is monitoring and writing the policies that we feel are missing. So that work continues to be ongoing. We have a couple of policies that are in the works, as we've mentioned, communications policy. We also have a closed session policy and a records management policy that are in the works. So it's certainly work that we can bundle into a nice report for the board just to keep that policy work trending in the right direction.
That's awesome, thank you. It seems like you might have had a look at the minimum policy checklist as well, because documents management is one of them that's in there. I have a question for Janine, and I guess I am being a little myopic here, but it's about finance, and I'm glad our treasurer Samantha is here with us. I remember from the conference, the recommendation was for the board to have staff track their time so that we can justify what we put in the budget for admin support. When I look around the room here, I see four staff members from Georgian Bluffs, and call me selfish, but if Georgian Bluffs is a member municipality and we're paying more than our share for admin support, then I need to be able to justify that to my council as well. So what are your thoughts on how do we ensure that accountability, Janine?
There are a couple of different ways. One is as easy as asking staff to track their time with respect to their work for the board. It needs to be reflective for two reasons. So one is to make sure that the board understands how much work is being done to support the board, and respectfully to ensure that the participating municipalities understand how much work is being done to support the board. We have had some boards that are struggling with challenges on ensuring that they have good support. So there's the rationale behind keeping track of how much time is being spent is twofold. One is to ensure that the municipal staff themselves are not overwhelmed with the amount of work, and so the review of the internal supports for your municipality should be upfront. And we are suggesting in future that boards take the support roles for their board functions very, very seriously, as the respective community or administrations should as well. This shouldn't, given the rigor that's in the CSPA, we don't think that going forward, this should be a corner of the desk responsibility. The second part to that is, though, in making sure that you're well supported and that the coordinated administration has a really good idea of how much time is being spent on board responsibilities, is that in future, given the responsibilities, some boards have already gone ahead and decided to hire part-time staff or full-time staff, depending on the size and nature of their board. This will also provide a very good foundation for building job description expectation and the amount of time, and therefore the amount of budget that will go towards that singular dedicated resource.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Samantha.
So through you, I was just gonna say, Georgian Bless will be looking at undertaking some of that better tracking of time to 2025 for the purposes of the board. It's a bit of a unique year in its creation, so that there was a bit more staff time that we didn't think it was a fair representation to use 2025 for the basis in perpetuity. So we will be taking that on in 2026. Right now, your budget, when we get to that report, does have the half FTE plus a set amount for additional administrative. At this time, we don't know that's the right number. We're going to undertake some of that work to make sure that for the purposes of a 2027 budget, we know that number, we can be more confident in what that number should be for both the administrative and or the individual, your board administrator and other administrative costs.
I could follow up with that with Samantha and the question that Kathy was speaking to. We've not seen, I don't know if there's a contract or an MOU or a letter of understanding between Georgian Bluffs and our board. Does that exist? Setting out what, how things are calculated or how things are determined? I don't know. I mean, I know the Georgian Bluffs provides the services, just didn't fall out of the air. The question is, there must have been a memorandum of agreement or something, or a contract that obligates the board. Go ahead.
There is not a contract, there is not a memorandum of understanding. It was simply a decision of all of the joint councils upon creation of this board and upon submission of the proposal to the ministry. So the proposal is essentially what governs and establishes this board and has become your terms of reference. And that delegates out the responsibility of the board to the township.
Well, I'll save the remainder of the I'm sorry, was there a follow-up there?
I do have one that's still based on finance.
Yeah, go ahead.
So by the end of 2025, you will have some data as to how much admin time and our costs have been for this year, because we are now entering into another budget cycle. And so that data would be important for us in order to determine admin costs going forward.
Go ahead.
So through you, it likely will not be the end of 2025, as that would only be a 2-month representation. And I don't know that it'd be appropriate to extrapolate 2 months for a full year. So we will be undertaking some of that work at the end of 2025, but a lot of it will be in 2026, because there are cyclical natures in our staff's commitment and time capacity required for this board, looking at when your conferences are being booked. If there are multiple individuals going to that annual conference, there can be a spike in our staff time required to the board that maybe isn't the same in a January month. So we're going to try to have probably at least a 6-month analysis to give a bit of better data that can have and show some of those fluctuations throughout the staff time.
You think it's, like, I know in the beginning, we looked at the half of the full-time employee, and that's roughly, 18 hours a week is what we estimated over a full year cycle. You must have a little bit of an idea, is that even close? Is that too much? Is it fair? Just like if you feel this next year is gonna be 40 hours a week, well, we better adjust and get ready for if we do have to do that. I would find that hard to believe that we have to put that many hours a week into a person to help us with this board. It's not specific to one person, it's Georgian Bluff staff that is doing everything, but the finances is a half of an employee. So could you even just give a ballpark that we're hitting it close, so we don't have a big scare at the end of this year, and you're gonna have to go through 2026 cycle to be able to come up with a good averages? Is that a fair question?
So through you, I might look to Jody for a moment here, recognizing she is your half FTE. If we are looking, as highlighted, there are 4 staff members from Georgian Bluffs in this meeting at this time. If this meeting goes for 4 hours, that's about $9,500 of staff time. So that's just the purposes of this meeting. That's not the prep time associated with this meeting. So right now, we don't have that hard data.
Okay.
In the year of initial starting of the board, I don't think it is 18 hours. I think Jody, and you can correct me, has spent more than 18 hours, but we don't have any data to know how many hours that actually is yet.
Sorry.
No.
Just a follow-up for the chair. We also don't know, do we need a meeting a month? Do we need a meeting every 6 months? Do we meet, I think the minimum was 1 a year.
4.
Or was it 4? Is that what ended up being?
Yeah.
Okay. So those are questions once we're all set up, but the initial ongoing setup can't be at the cost of Georgian Bluffs, is all I'm meaning. And if it's the municipalities need to spike in a little more dollars in the beginning to get this set up and going, maybe the ongoing in a year or 2 after this board's been going might be the 18 hours a week. But I don't think it should be at the cost of Georgian Bluffs to get this thing set up and going. So.
Thank you for saying that, Member Kirk. I'm a little confused about why we wouldn't have some data though, with respect. I imagine staff, I have no idea, but I imagine staff fill out time reports on a regular basis. I mean, as a health nurse, I had to account for every 15 minutes of my time. So I imagine staff are doing that. Wouldn't it be pretty easy to go back and take the codes for police and have a summary for that, or do we not have the system set up to do that?
For you, unless Jody has been tracking it on her own, her day-to-day, our timesheet system for Georgian Bluffs does not go into that level of detail. Right now, it's just a standard start, lunch, end.
Any questions, all
Chair
right?
Solers, if I may, members.
I do have a
has
question.
her
Oh, sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Monica.
Oh, sorry. No, I didn't mean to interrupt if there was someone speaking.
Yeah, go ahead. Did you have any questions?
Yes,
Member
I had my
Song?
hand up. Yeah, I did have my hand up for a while. But thank you so much, Chair. And just wanted to thank Jenny. I'm wondering if she's still with us. Because I just had a question just with regards to if there's any possibility for provincial guidance to help standardize how police data is reported to municipal councils so that local decision making is both consistent and transparent. And the genesis of my question is coming from my last council meeting. We did have a question that was raised that in a previous police board meeting, I did ask as well about getting municipal specific data, to which you spoke today about sometimes it's easy to go into the myopic viewpoint. And that was actually brought up, and I was kind of it was kind of sent to be, just kind of push on that, because how can I know what decisions to make at the council level for my local area? It was coming from our mayor, and I understand where he's coming from. It's very understandable. But I know with the 2019 implementation of this board, and then essentially this board now coming to meet this year, and that understanding that it is a new board, even if it was created, in 2019, there's a lot of things that need to be worked out, and a mindset change and understanding those things. So I was wondering if you could kindly speak to that, so I too can bring something back to my council to let them to have an answer.
Okay, that's a great question. And through you, Chair, there are some standards in place. So first, I want to say that the local action plan process is a standard process from detachment to detachment. What differs is perhaps the areas of focus. But the areas of focus with your detachment commander should be consistent data collection, and is likely consistent from detachment to detachment as well. But they will better be able to answer that. And again, I did mention that they will be going through the next local action planning cycle. And that's a great opportunity for the board to get involved and understand how that process works. What's required of the board, how stats are collected, what kind of information is collected. I can tell you in a meeting yesterday that the Inspectorate of Policing is also looking at data collection. For instance, response times is one that came up in our discussion yesterday. From police service to police service, how they calculate response times differs. When the point of collection of that information differs, and there's quite a bit of inconsistency and variability across the province. So this is an area that the Inspectorate of Policing is also looking at as they are trying to develop what they're going to call their standards for adequate and effective policing. So although, again, it's going to take some time because everything is a bit premature, at least we know from detachment area to detachment area, the systems that the OPP uses are consistent, and the expectations are similar. So that should be a good foundation to at least get started. This is where, again, a good discussion with your detachment commander in understanding how all of this is collected and how it rolls up through the OPP organization right up to the commissioner and the minister.
And just a quick follow-up, Chair. With regards to that, just because of to the points that were just being raised with regards to training, cost, funding, obviously, if we were to request more reports that are more specific to data for a municipality, that's going to possibly cause more hours of work for staff. And also, Commander, while they're happy to do it, the funding is finite. And so that's something just to, always keep in mind that I hope we can figure out some balance there. And just with the training, I know that conferences are the one that's coming up, some municipalities only allow a certain number of conferences. And so while certain board members can have provisions for that, others, specifically, I believe the elected officials, they would have to have that covered through their municipalities. So sometimes it's like we have to pick and choose which one we're going to go to, but then some of them conferences that we want to attend will be where delegations are happening, and it's like everything's important. And then it's like, would there ever be a possibility for the province to possibly look at any provisional funding or resources that might help to cover where this might be a scenario?
I can't speak to what the province is interested in doing as far as funding is concerned. That is really something that is the responsibility of the minister. I do know that he receives regular feedback from police agencies and boards around funding and dollars, and specifically, if anybody's paying attention to the paper, the amount of the number of police budgets that continue to be on the rise, and the balance between the tax purse and the expectations of community safety are always what feel like competing priorities. So with respect to your specific question around funding, it's not one that I can answer. I can tell you the OAPSB does have a strong advocacy arm, and we are always interested in hearing from our boards the pain points, and that we do build that into our advocacy activities. I know funding is always on the list of priorities as far as the advocacy group is concerned.
Are there any further questions or comments with respect to Janine's presentation? Before I make a comment or two? None? The association is an excellent resource. I've used it on a number of occasions, and I've interacted with Janine both in meetings and in the discussion groups, and she does get back quickly. I would encourage the members, and several have, to attend these chat groups, as I call them. You're interacting and with other board members, and there's a lot of good information comes from it, as Kathy pointed out, and I'll point that out too. So I would like to thank Janine for, as usual, for attending, and we'll all be talking to you again.
Okay, I look forward to seeing all of you. I'm going to log off now, but if there are remaining questions after the fact, please feel free to reach out anytime. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Did we miss any vote on that at all?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. You just need to call the vote now to receive that presentation for information. You do have a mover and seconder.
Okay, with respect to the presentation to be received for information, do I have a mover? Okay, Member Kirkland and, sorry.
Already had a move.
We had one, we had it. All in favor, everybody's in favor, I'll put two hands up. Any opposed? None. Okay, thank you very much. Moving along, I'm not taking the break yet, but we're gonna get close in 15 minutes. Depends on the length. I think we are going next to, just to be clear. Just to put it on the record, any person who wishes, with respect to items on the agenda, is number 6.2 we're at? Okay, good.
Yeah, it's 5.
5.2.
Oh, sorry, 6.2, you're correct.
Oh, 6.2.
Change. It's 5.2.
Any person who wishes to appear before the board regarding an item on the agenda must register with the board administrator. To register, you can, and this again is on the record, complete the online delegation form. Call the board administrator at 519-376-2729 extension 601, or register in council chambers prior to the start of the meeting. There are no delegations, other delegations here. With respect to reports, the detachment commander, should we take a break at this point? I hear a yes, and a lot of nods. Okay, let's try to take a 10-minute break.
Georgian Bluff Bluff has a lot of activities to do. It's really nature driven, and it's like the community is very nice, very friendly. And a lot of the locals come here every single day and they think of it as their therapy.
We're the Farouk family. We started farm on the lake, and the community, everybody around it, the support structure, the township has actually made us to who we are today. And now that we have this set up, this whole operation is well received by the community. People drive down from far, far away to do camping, glamping with us.
A lot of people come from far away to see the goats, and they're really amazed. Sometimes we feed the babies in front of them.
When we think about Georgian Bluffs, it's really the Reiki forest bathing that comes to my mind. I'm a Reiki master teacher, and we were looking to bring our people for a retreat, and this property just popped up, and we realized that behind is a beautiful forest. Every time we are driving up, I feel so relaxed. The air is amazing.
If you're an outdoor enthusiast, there's never-ending things to do. There's the hiking all over through the escarpment. There's the bay, the water, if you're into water sports or sailing. And of course, pickleball is growing fast and it's all over the place right now. So there's lots to do.
What we enjoy the most about Georgian Bluff is having access to the beautiful nature around us, the cultural impact from the First Nations to the local artists.
The trails and so many great things to do, and lots of business opportunity here, and tourism as well to support our business.
First off, what I love about the area is the scenery. It's absolutely beautiful. Like, it's right in the name of the municipality, the Bluffs. Another thing too that I noticed from living through here is all the small communities throughout Georgian Bluffs. They're very unique, and they might be very small, but we're very big with heart. Everybody looks out for each other, takes care of each other, and just the way locals support locals. So the ability to have a local business and prosper is very apparent here in Georgian Bluffs.
People are more genuine here. People are more sincere. They're kind. They know the word please and thank you. It's the way life used to be. It's more simpler. You feel like you're part of something.
The Township of Georgian Bluffs as a municipality is proud to serve its residents, whether it be looking after infrastructure, looking after our roads, grading our gravel roads, looking after our parks, our trails, our community centres, our ice arena, or providing the services that residents rely on every single day when they come to our township offices. I'm proud to lead a team which is here serving the residents of Georgian Bluffs every single day.
What we'd like to see Georgian Bluffs going forward is really more people coming to experience this beautiful energy, this relaxed energy, because over here in Georgian Bluffs, I can hear the wind, I can hear the trees talking. It's just amazingly relaxing.
Welcoming more people, yet with the same foundation and principles of community, of respect, and of moral.
It would be great for Georgian Bluffs to continue to support, nature and the beauty that we have here, and to keep our area clean and beautiful.
I hope to see more local businesses, more sustainable living, and more families just moving up here and living and prospering off their land and their property.
For me and my family, Georgian Bluffs means being close to nature, having the escarpment to hike and the water of Georgian Bay at our doorstep is something that draws us to being part of this community. The family-friendly neighbourhoods, the fact I can connect with my neighbours and see them on the street, say hello, and I know the people I'm seeing each day is something which for me is something I treasure and my family treasures about being in Georgian Bluffs.
Dirk and Alma DeVries, and we are coming to you from Dual Acres. This is a beautiful property in Georgian Bluffs that we own, and we run horse-drawn sleigh and carriage rides from.
So today we're going to have Dan and Juliet. Dan's a 12-year-old gelding, and Juliet's a 12-year-old mare. Come on, Dan. When people come here, we invite them to come back to our shack. And they'll go in there and they can get ready to go, get dressed, whatever they need to do, and stay warm until the ride event starts. And then we bring the horses out of this sleigh shed here, and they get on, and we take them roughly for a 40-minute ride, all through hardwood and softwood bush. So the whole experience is in woods. We return here, we drop them off here. They can go in, there's a big wood stove in there, they warm up, and if they so desire, they can also enjoy a cup of hot chocolate. We build all our own sleighs, and then the reason for that is sleighs in Ontario came with a width of stance, the rudder width of 3 feet, and that was designed to work in the bush and whatnot. But a 3-foot stance is very typical when you get people. People are like hauling water. There's always a second motion. And that second motion is the motion that'll tip the sleighs. So I rebuild all sleighs to a 4-foot wide stance. And that's very stable. There's no, you cannot tip them. Our sleighs are also adaptable to handle wheelchairs.
Commander.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So this is very fitting after the chat from Janine, the presentation. She spoke about the local priorities. So this year we were kind of rushed to get it done because the board was formed late, and the OPP is also working at getting compliance out of CSPA. So myself and my staff created a draft, just a starting point, because we thought if we tried to start from scratch here, it would be quite the process. So we took what we found were some priorities for our detachment area. There are 4 mandatory ones. Like Janine said, the commissioner sets the strategic priorities for the OPP. So we do have mandatory priorities that we have to include in our local plan. So they are the first ones in each category, as well as the second one, the community well-being one. I'm going to give you a quick glimpse of this is what the plan will look like once it's done. This is the draft that I printed off. It's going to have our strategic plan priorities. That's the OPP's bigger picture.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? One thing I ought to have done before you started is just read the recommendation, okay, to receive the report, if I may.
Absolutely.
Okay, I apologize. That the Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board received the draft action plan for review and comment. May I have a mover? Okay, Member Mackey, and a seconder, Member Kirkland. Okay, continue.
Okay, then you'll have the table of contents. Then there will be a message from the detachment commander on the next page. The next page is for our chair there. He will get to have his message. Our last year's plan did not have a message from the chair because we did not yet have a board. So that's the page for Mr. Sorlich's overview. Then there'll be a page that shows or describes our communities and our detachment area, a map of the detachment area. This is not, I don't think, in the, I'm not sure if it's in the agenda, but this is just what it will look like. And then it gets to the section where I've included the draft plan that's in the agenda. So I just want to let you know how we got to these priorities. So I'm assuming everyone here is aware of the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan for Grey Bruce counties. Perhaps some of the members aren't. But that was a consultation with a huge number of community groups. It was very inclusive of youth groups, adult groups, age, the elders, very all encompassing. So in that plan, they created the 5 priorities for Grey Bruce. The municipality of Meaford created their own community safety wellbeing plan, but there's overlap and the priorities are very similar. So the 5 priorities for the community safety wellbeing plan are addiction and substance abuse, number 1. Number 2 is mental health. Number 3 was crime prevention. 4, housing and homelessness. And 5 was poverty and income. So the top 3 are ones that we really focused on for our priorities. And those priorities were made, like I said, from the consultation of all those groups. So that's already been done. So that's why we didn't have those sessions. Time was also of the essence, but that consultation with the communities has already been done to create those priorities. Also, in the crime prevention subcommittee of the community safety wellbeing group, they did a road safety survey. So that survey was a community survey that got feedback on road safety concerns. So we consulted that. I'm going to ask you all, the municipal reps, to take this back to your councils and see if they have any further feedback that they would like. And then that's going to cover the consult with them, with the councils. So if there's any questions before we begin? No? Okay. So the first page just outlines the priorities in one little section. And then as you move into it, each category, crime, roadways, waterways, and trails, community well-being are all broken down. So we'll go to crime to start with. So the first commitment or priority is to enhance proactive patrol and/or initiatives to target specific local crime trends and reduce victimization while increasing community safety. This is a mandatory one that all OPP detachments must have. So we've outlined our actions in there, and then the outcome, how we're going to measure it. So I don't know if I go through everything, but create focused patrols based on community input, utilize focused analytical reports for those targeted patrols, utilize crime prevention educational programs such as Safeguard and CamSafe, mandatory foot and bicycle patrols, and timely media release for public information and Crime Stoppers engagement. The outcome will be data-driven patrol initiatives based on analysis and community input, resulting in increased personal and community safety. So for that, we can measure that by our crime trends, whether they're up or down, and we'll look at that. Do we want to do, how do you want to do this? Do you want to do feedback on each commitment, or how does the board want to do this? Do you want to go through this? And should I be going through them all, or has everyone read them?
I've read mine.
Okay, so do we want to just provide feedback? I don't know what the best way to do this in the essence.
At the end, perhaps with questions.
Yeah, sure.
I think you want to do it right, because this is going on your performance review.
That's right. I know, that's to make sure I'm doing it the right way. We just have lots of questions. Okay, well, let's go questions, because it could take a while if I read it all. Okay. No questions. Okay, thanks.
So through you, Mr. Chair, then should we have a motion here to receive this? Should we have a separate motion that it's just formally to be sent back to our local council, so it's in the minutes that's direction to us that we're to take them back? Should that need to be in a motion for guidance on that?
Craft a motion for that one? Or amendment to the main motion, maybe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Yes, I would suggest that there's an amendment to the main motion that provides direction to individual members of councils to share the draft action plan, commitments, actions, and outcomes with their councils for review and comment.
All right, I'll move that amendment.
Yeah, just like that.
Sounds good.
Would that, Monica, did you have a question there? We lost her sound. She's on mute. Can you hear us? You hear us, we can't hear her. Do you have any questions, Soros? You do.
I think procedure, we need a seconder though, Mr. Chair, for my amendment.
Seconded by Vice Chair. Okay, I guess we're gonna have to still proceed well, I guess Jody, you're working on trying to get her voice in there?
Somebody is.
Or somebody is, okay. Somebody will open it up and when we have you, weigh in. Okay, where were we? Back to the commander.
Whoever has any questions, it was open up.
My amendment to.
Oh, let's.
Yeah, I have that amendment to the main motion that.
Let's get the wording, wording of the motion, of the amendment. Charlie, you,
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I believe I had provided it. It was just to say that, that members on the board from municipal councils be directed to share the draft action plan commitments, actions, and outcomes with their individual councils for review and comment, and that feedback be provided to the detachment commander.
okay, it's been moved by Member McQueen.
Just point, is there a certain time?
By the next meeting?
I think that should be in that motion as
Our
well.
next meeting of the board, November 25th.
Because the plan is for this to be approved at the next detachment board meeting. It's the last one of the year, so unfortunately, it's a tight timeline.
Let's get on the next agenda.
Go ahead, Member Kirkland.
Just a question on that. So when I present this to my council, you expect me to be able to answer every question? Or
forward them to me.
just want them wrote down, like you'll want these questions answered before the next meeting so this action plan can be put in place?
Yeah, so the idea is for you to bring any comments, concerns, then as a detachment, we'll compile all the questions, concerns, and amend the priorities as we see fit based on all the feedback.
Okay, so you want this all done before the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Only because it's the last board meeting of the year. We don't have one in December. The deadline for me to submit it is actually November 10th.
You know we're all in budgets.
Yeah, I mean, we can try to postpone it till January, but I don't know how that will go over with the CSPA requirements.
So if we have a motion on an amendment on the floor, it's been moved and seconded. So I'm just procedurally, we're gonna have any discussion related to that amendment, or can we move forward to vote on that particular amendment?
Say move forward. All in favor of the amendment? Any opposed? None. Sorry. Oh, have we got Monica back?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the sound appears to be working on our end. I'm just going to ask Member Soares to leave the meeting and come back in to see if that results in any change to her audio settings.
Okay. I'll come back in a sec. There we go. Yeah.
Just discussion on the motion.
Yes.
As amended. So I think the point is, if there's, it could be circulated to our local councils. If there's any comments to come back ASAP. But if there's no comments to come back, just carry on.
Correct.
So I think that's important that, you know, if there's something that has to come back, then it has to come back, but it's also for information as well, right?
Okay, in the meantime, if I may, when I look at the plan, I do have some questions about measurables. So some of these look like goals to me, and I'm just wondering how as a board, we're going to be able to demonstrate that we've been effective in meeting those. So just by way of example, to reduce the number of impaired drivers. So we would need to know if your objective is actually to reduce the number of impaired drivers, we would need to know where we're at right now and what our goal is in order for us to be able to measure that we've been effective. So are we going to try to decrease it by 10%? So your goal is not about providing more ride programs, for example. It's about reducing the number of impaired drivers. So is there a plan, and that's just one example in the overall action plan, but what's the plan to demonstrate that we've been successful? As a board member, I would need to know what the number of impaired drivers is currently.
Absolutely, and I report that yearly and quarterly. So we look at the ones from last year to this year, and are we on par with reducing, or are we increasing? And that's where the measurables comes from that data on impaired drivers. So it's definitely a measurable. We take our impaireds from, we can go by quarter and report each quarter, which I do already, and then annually as well to see that reduction.
So any amount of reduction we would consider successful as a board, or are we looking at?
I guess that's up to the board. I would see a reduction as a good thing.
Well, I think Member Colburn touched on this, but are we going to get specifics of reduction of how much? 10%, 20%? What is the goal? I mean, a reduction of one less, is that acceptable to us? Or do we need something more concrete in terms of what you believe is, with the resources you have, achievable?
So we kept it broad as reducing it, and then we'll see, is it 10%, is it 20%? What is our final goal? But we kept it broad as just reducing it in general. And then the board can decide, was it a success or not? But that's why we kept it more general versus a specific 10%, for an example.
Further, go ahead, Member Kirkland.
But are we going to decide as a board, or you've already decided what is the most important? Like, we might decide that to address and prevent fraud through education, prevention, and enforcement is more important than reducing our impaireds. If our impaireds are only 4 per year, like we might want to see, can we do that as a board, direct you in more of an area of getting rid of the drugs, like you said, a successful one in Wyerton with the, is that what you're asking us, or?
For speaking of that, so impaired driving, it's under the road safety one, but crime, we've got the drug one in there. So under crime, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 priorities. So they're not in any order. These are just our 5 priorities for crime for the 2026 to 2029 period. And then we have a number of them under roadways and community well-being. So this is what we proposed, but that's not to say that if you guys don't think one of these is a priority, that we can't remove it, or if you have something that you think is really important that we missed, that we can't add it. Does that answer your question?
No.
So they're not listed in order of importance. It's just these are our main priorities under crime. These are the ones under roadways. These are under community well-being.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Inspector, for this is a good start. Can you just comment, please, on the establishment of a dedicated offender management apprehension program? I'm just wondering what that will look like locally, and certainly timed with the potential changes to bail reforms. So
Yes, so it's very closely tied to that. We have it in place now, but it's becoming more formalized in January, where it's going to be consistent across the province in the OPP. It's going to be a full-time position in each detachment, where that one officer is responsible for overseeing all of our warrant files, our high-risk offenders, basically those people that are out on bail, to ensure that they're not reoffending and they are in compliance with their release conditions. So we are going to have a full-time member dedicated to that. Alexis does that off the corner of her desk right now, but there will be a full-time member assigned in January. And they'll be, initiating those warrant sweeps where they go out and execute a bunch of warrants to try to get some of these people in custody, things like that, to really focus on those people that are in our communities, that are at risk to our communities.
I could, Mr. Chair. So someone, on a bail release that has a curfew, for example, will this officer highlight that to the other patrol officers that this person is living at this address and is under these certain conditions, and so that there's actually, some check and balances, which I don't think are really there right now?
It is being done now, but like I said, it's one part of Alexis's role, whereas this one officer, this is their portfolio. So it'll be more time on that to dedicate to it and to ensure all those checks are being conducted. But currently Alexis does assign those checks to officers and they do them on their shift. But it's just going to be more of a focus, dedicated one person to ensure the overall success of the program.
Okay, thank you.
All officers will be engaged in the checks and doing the follow-up, but it's one officer coordinating the response.
Just on that point, if I can follow up with a question, you're talking about serving the warrants. And are the warrants served by regular patrol officers on their shift, or are you using special constables?
Serving warrants?
Well, if you're following up on a warrant.
Okay, yeah. So like I said, it'll be assigned by our OMAP coordinator and it'll be a member on shift. However, the OMAP coordinator will also be doing some of that as well.
Go ahead, Mark.
Not to beat this impaired driving example to death, but it strikes me that when we want to measure, statistics can lie or they can be incomplete. Are we talking about how many are detected? If you wanted to show a reduction, not that you would, you could just do less ride checks and then there'd be less drunk drivers supposedly on the road. And I don't think any of us are naive enough to believe that there aren't a lot of drunk drivers that you never detect. So is your measurement going to include all of this related information and say, okay, we doubled our ride checks, we had more convictions and more detections? That's a good thing, but it doesn't necessarily achieve the reduction that you talk about. So all of this, when I think of this in the context of the broader picture, it could apply to how many people speed, how many people break laws. If we don't detect them, then it might look like unless there's accidents that result and say that was because of an impaired driver, you wouldn't know whether you've achieved anything, and we certainly wouldn't either.
So I put it to the board, what would you like to see for the measurable there? We can, that's what the point of this discussion is so that we can get that feedback and we can change this. Absolutely, that's what we came here for.
Yeah, I had a great conversation in the break about the measurables and what we're doing here. And I learned that impaired driving is probably the worst example for us to start with in terms of setting a measurable for Marla and her team. If we start with something simple like the training on intimate partner violence, it says all training for all members. We could set a goal that 100% of members shall be trained on this within this time frame. So it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable. We can target that type of thing, and Marla can come back a year from now and say, 100% of my members were, you asked for 100% of my members to be trained on this. We trained 100%, and she gets a tick mark, and off we go. I think for something like impaired driving, as we've realized, is it more ride programs? Is it reducing the percentage that we catch when how do we measure that? And that one's really tough. So I guess my comments previously were around when we set an objective, it needs to be specific and measurable. Just saying reducing something is, as Robert and Gary mentioned, isn't specific enough. So that would be my comment, is for ones that we can measure, let's put specific measurements in there. And then on a quarterly basis, as a board, we could expect some type of report that outlines where we're at in terms of that target. So, sorry, that's a long, rambly comment, but.
And just to touch on one point there, you said, I'm gonna come back in a year, just so you know, this is a 4-year plan. So it's 2026 to 2029, just so everyone's aware. It's not that we're gonna have everything accomplished in 1 year, it's a 4-year plan. Just, I don't know if I touched on that before, just
But then I think the points that we're making are even more valid because we have no way of measuring outcomes against most of these actions. So something, it says mandatory foot and bicycle patrols. What does that mean? If we do 50 now, are we doing 100 next year, or what's our goal in terms of mandatory foot and bicycle patrols. Because you do them now, if you're coming back with your report to say, well, we're still doing them, that was our goal, to do mandatory foot and bicycle patrols, we're still doing them, what's our improvement target? What's our outcome that we're looking for? So sorry, and I appreciate that I've come from a different background in the industry, but that's what I'm looking for, is specific measurable things. Frankly, you probably got too many things on here listed as objectives if we're going to measure and hold you accountable to achieve them over the next 4 years.
Did we get member Soros back on there? No, we can't hear her.
Could you send an email?
I was going to say, well, Carly, can you hear her? That's a good question. Can you email the question, Monica? Okay. To whom?
Probably Jody.
Pardon me?
Probably Jody.
Yeah, to Jody. You've got Jody's email address. Sure. Do it that way. We'll keep going on in the meantime. Sorry, Kathy, go ahead.
Thank you, and through you to, I guess, the chief, but also my fellow board members. If this, I assume this action plan is tied to your performance review. So how do we, if we are tasked with reviewing performance yearly, but we have an action plan that covers 4 years, that's going to make it, I think, tricky for us to do that evaluation. So I guess my question is it mandatory that the plan be for a 4-year period? So there's no flexibility there. How do you propose we want to do you justice as well. So if it's a 4-year plan and we have to evaluate your performance, how are we going to do that when you're still perhaps working?
So I provide quarterly reports to you guys and then also a year-end report. So you're going to see what progress we've made in those quarterly reports and then also each year in the annual report. So you'll have that information throughout the year.
Any further questions at this point? Yep. Go ahead.
I'm trying to be fair to Marlon.
He was just open to questions. I don't have anything else to say.
Go ahead, Carl.
I'm not sure if you had your hand up.
No, I was pointing at you.
Great. Is the at a provincial level, or the level of detail that I was asking about, do they provide guidance or templates or suggestions around data or measurables that could be incorporated into this plan?
They provide examples, but it's very general that they provided in the draft for this for us to complete them.
Just for clarification, in mind, Mara, are you saying that your quarterly reports will give the information that we're asking for?
The quarterly reports give an update in all the stats throughout the detachment area. So all of these things are measured through some of the stats. And if there's specific reports you want based on some of these things,
Become quarterly.
yeah, like you want to know the number of members that have been trained or whatever that may be on certain things, then we can incorporate that into the quarterly reports.
So you've already got something in place that's more or less trying to do what we're asking this to do. You're saying the quarterly reports will do that, and we can alter them or ask you for less or more during the quarterly reports.
So the quarterly reports are what you've been seeing from me throughout the short tenure of the board. I'm in the municipal, you'll remember from previous boards, those quarterly reports. So those will continue. And then if there's something specific from this plan that you want reported on quarterly that's not covered in the quarterly reports, then we can add that in. But I guess my question for the board is, what is it you want specific measurements in the outcomes? Like we want to do this by 10%, or is that what the board's looking for the outcomes? Just when we go back to the table as a group.
Well, do you think that's achievable?
I mean, it's very specific. And that's why, like, for instance, the impaired driving one, it came from our previous action plan from the past 3 years because I felt it was still relevant. And so I carried it over into this one. And then you'll see, I think the one from last year's there, how we reported on it previous year. In here. No, but this isn't it. I don't have the action plan update, but that is what I reported on for that past 3-year period. That was one of the commitments, the priorities. So, we just said, here's the steps we've done. This is the outcome. This is the progress. This is what we've accomplished in this period, according to impaired drivers. Here's what our ride programs were at, and here's the number of impaired drivers we had. Number of crashes, collisions. We do collect stats on collision data and what was the cause of the collision. So, was impaired one of the leading factors or no? Things like that. Just off the top of my mind, I don't have that report with me.
Inspector, if I'm not mistaken, these quarterly reports do comparisons between one year and the other as well, do they not? Yes, so we are seeing the stats and the changes from time to time. So that should give us some information.
Each quarter, and it also shows year to date.
Exactly.
Yeah, comparing the years. Is it 3 years? Yeah, some are 3 years and some are 5. Yeah, 3 or 5 years.
Up there? Go ahead.
Through the church holders, yes, I have Monica's question if you'd like me to read it. Monica said, member source says, in reviewing the draft 2026-2029 action plan, I see strong alignment on enforcement priorities and road safety. One area I'd like to ensure we continue to strengthen is community engagement, especially with newcomer families and diverse cultural communities. We are seeing shifts in demographics across South Gate and Grey County, and meaningful engagement builds trust and improves reporting and prevention outcomes.
Yeah, and I think that is the engagement is covered in the very first commitment under community well-being, is the increased community engagement and strengthen community relationships through enhanced communication and information sharing. And that is one that was mandatory from the commissioner.
Member Mack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Inspector, I appreciate you have, at a previous board meeting here, there was discussion around the road safety and our Mennonite Amish community, which I see has been added. So as far as being able to determine if we've made progress in that, would we have the dedicated officer, you're talking about a dedicated liaison officer, would that officer actually come and speak about the progress that has been made, about road campaigns, about his interactions with the bishops? Is that how we would measure something specific like that?
So he can absolutely come and talk about what he's done, but we would also look at our collision data and see how many collisions we had involving the buggies to what they are now since we've done our campaign. And then also we want to get that road signage up. So did we accomplish that? Did we get the road signage up? I mean, that's not the OPP to do that, but that's more like the board and the community to make this happen. And we are going to dedicate an officer to be that liaison with the community, because we know that to make that progress, you've got to have the relationship there. And I think by having that signage up, that'll show that increased community awareness of the Mennonite buggies on the roadways.
Member McLean.
Just in general, there's a lot of stuff in here. Like, I don't know how you can do it all personally. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, the one is, the big four: speeding, seatbelts, impaired impaired and distracted driving. It's the big four we always hear, especially on the long weekends and stuff like that and all that. There's a lot of stuff in here. I would say that from members or municipalities, is there something in here that's not in here that you'd like to see in here? I think that's what you're asking for, but there's a lot of stuff in here.
Or is there something here you think is not important, that shouldn't be a priority?
It's all important, but I just think that there's a lot of here, and going back to my member Kathy behind me, that the measurables, and I know in your reporting, certainly, I guess at other times we could probably make amendments as a board, say we want a little bit more focus on this, because we're seeing the numbers aren't, but you even go back to the Mennonite community, and if there's achievements there, but as that Mennonite community grows, there's more opportunity for situations as that grows too. So you got to take everything in a grain of salt, how you're measuring, because if that population is growing and there's more possibilities of that community on the road, it's statistics that the more there is, possibility of more things can happen as well. So I think we have to take it to a grain of salt as well. But I know that there's a lot of stuff in here. So good luck. in that sense, and good for you to take on all these things that are in here.
Member Rini. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add that not always a goal is measurable tangibly. So for instance, the Mennonite community, it could be measured by, did we appoint a liaison officer? How many meetings did that liaison officer have with how many groups that we have in our community? And did they commit to putting lights on their buggies? Where's the signage posted? Because all those things contribute to the safer roadways. So it's not always statistics driven, right? There's other ways of measuring it.
But I think it's Member Mackey said that we have that officer come and speak, just like we had the officer speak a few meetings back about water safety. I mean, there's things you can't put in a report, but hearing that stuff and have the ability to ask those questions, I think is very important, because then we get a better understanding of what you just said from that individual. And I think that's a good achievable, to have officers that are dedicated to certain things, and maybe every meeting there's a certain topic that you speak about that's outside the numbers, but it's more specific to what you're doing. Because I think
that can be measured in a report, saying that, you know, he attended 10 meetings, that he, you know, just as I went over, that can be added to the report as like an actual thing that was contributing to whatever the goal was. So.
Inspector, I know that on numerous occasions, especially around long weekends and special holidays, we're doing joint operations with Hanover Police, Westbury Police, and Sound Police. I think there's value in that for sure. Do we feel we accomplish more with that joint productivity?
So you'll see that I embedded that in one of the roadway ones. I don't know that we accomplish more. It's more about the visibility. And when you see all the policing partners together, it's the impact, right? Wow, there's Hanover, there's Westbury, there's an own Sound Police car here. Like it's more of the wow factor. And just having those officers dedicated, we do it one weekend a year in each municipality or each police service area. So I don't know that we've actually got the stats specifically on those rides and whether they are higher or lower than our normal. It's more just the collaboration and then like that the community impact of seeing everyone together.
Profile, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Like we'll do a ride kickoff for the festive season coming up, and all of the policing partners come together. Again, it's for the impact, the community engagement piece.
For you, Tamarla, when Georgian Bluffs looked at the results of a recent services feedback survey, things that popped up you have included here in the plan, so I appreciate that. Specifically visibility, increasing visibility, speeding, but also property crime like theft and break and enter, not just personal but also our businesses. So I just wanted to comment on that certainly is needs as identified by some of our residents.
I just wanted to, in the context of this discussion, something I wrote down as part of Janine's discussion on talking about governance versus operation was, we're here to ask, to say what should be done and ask how's it going, but not how to do it. And I guess that's where, you know, we're starting to ask, maybe getting into a lot of questions about, okay, here's what we want to achieve. You're the experts. Go do it and tell us how it's going. So I'm just concerned that maybe we're asking for too much specifics about the how to do it.
Any comment with respect to that? Marla?
Again, I think that's why we laid it out the way we did. We didn't want it to be so specific that it's like a 10% or whatever, you know, that specific. Like Staff Anderson said, you know, it doesn't have to be specific numbers like that. We can still show measurables. Like maybe we, the impaired driving one, I get that one's a little convoluted. So maybe we change it to number of ride programs, like how many ride programs this year versus last year. And then we'll have to figure out the numbers for the impaired drivers, because I see what you're saying, like just because there's less impaired drivers, we all know impaired driving is a still thing, but we also spoke about the community education piece too, right? So we can talk what kind of education measures we took throughout the year to try to educate people about impaired driving.
Hold up, another police services board similar, and I'm just wondering if there might be two separate documents here. One prepared that lays out the priorities for the policing service that lay people and community members that are reading and understand that we have a focus on X, Y, and Z, and then perhaps a separate document that has some of these more specifics that are tied to the stats we're going to receive quarterly, that we could look to Marla to say, what have we done to engage the Mennonite community, or what have we done in terms of increasing our foot patrol? So that might, I want to say make it easier, but allow you to meet the timelines and that around a 6-page document that is for public communication purposes, and then a more specific document that ties measurables and outcomes together.
Are you looking at a municipal police service?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when we did this, we did consult with other detachments just to see if there was ones that were similar for wording and things, and they are very similar in how it's laid out around. So it might be an OPP thing versus the municipals. But yeah, I see what you're saying now.
Yeah, they use similar, provide safe and accessible, sort of, that they do focus on their people as one of the objectives, and I noticed that that's something that is not captured in
So we did focus on the people. It might not look as obvious, but we have identified local strategies and actively recruit qualified local candidates. And I think that for us is a very big focus on our people, because as amazing as Rivers is, not everyone wants to come here to work. Because we are a big province and recruitment is generally done in the big city areas, like the bigger volumes. We find it difficult to find local people that want to be here and want to stay. So we do see a lot of turnover in officers here, and we see the impact that has on the officers that remain here and that are invested in the communities. I'm not saying the officers that come for 3 years aren't invested, but it's not the same as someone who is here, they want to stay here, they're from here. So we really want to focus on that, recognizing that we need to do our part to try to get those members from this area that want to be here, so that it's going to improve everything in our detachment. You know, people that want to be there, they're going to be more engaged in their community, and then the members that are here are not seeing that constant turnover of members coming through the doors. So that's going to impact those officers and their well-being.
Just on that, Mr. Chair, so are you going to do like a local recruitment drive in Grey Bruce? Or maybe you're doing that now?
We're already doing it, but we're going to continue and make it a real focus. We're having an event next month to start it off, actually.
Yeah, I've sort of missed the moment, but I don't feel that we are getting into the operational day-to-day issues at all. In fact, I think what we're doing is setting ourselves up as a board for governance success. We ask about how do we measure the objectives. We're not saying how to run a ride program or how to charge an impaired driver. We're just simply saying, here's the information we're going to need at the end of the day in order to decide if we're meeting the needs of our community members or not.
Anything further? Anything further? No? On that, I'm calling a vote. I'm losing it too. We did already have a mover and seconder. All in favor of the report? Opposed, if any? None. Carried. Good. We went out of the way. We've got the next one. The recommendation, whereas the Community Safety and Policing Act mandates the detachment board to monitor the performance of the detachment commander, and whereas the Ontario Provincial Police have generated a standard operating procedure to govern the performance review process, now therefore the Grey Bruce Joint Detachment Board provide direction to staff regarding the composition of the review structure, and that all comments be provided via the required forms prior to the November 25th board meeting. Can I have a mover? Member McQueen has moved it. Seconder. Seconded by Member Martin. Go ahead.
So I think you all got the information about the detachment commander performance feedback. The OPP has made a standardized detachment commander performance feedback form that's consistent with all detachments in the OPP. So all detachment commanders are being evaluated on the same form. So it's all laid out in the information on the agenda, but I think the idea is to decide whether it's going to be the chair or if there's a committee form that provides the feedback, and that the chair or the group would provide the feedback under the detachment commander duties. It's in green. And then also under detachment commander duties in the green, and the action plan commitments in green. And then there's also room for additional feedback. So that's it in a nutshell, and it's up to the board how they want to do that, and how they want to provide that feedback.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, I just wanted to provide some clarity regarding the request for direction. So as the detachment commander has outlined, we are recommending, I guess, one of three options to be pursued by the board to complete this performance review process with respect to time and getting this board all in the same place, which is challenging given the amount of people that we have. So we are recommending that either the chair complete the performance review process, or that there's a committee struck of either 3 or a maximum 5 members to provide the feedback via the required forms prior to November 25th.
And sorry, just to touch on one thing I didn't say. The timelines for this evaluation or feedback are condensed because of the late formation of the board. So starting in January, we'll have a full year review and meetings throughout the year to talk about feedback. But just for this year, because it was condensed, we didn't really get our feet going until March or April. That's why it's so condensed and it's tight timelines. But going forward in 2026, it's laid out throughout the year, and it's we'll have more time to.
Does it have to be adhered to for November 25th? Or is that a suggested timeline?
Yeah, I think just because it's the last meeting of the year. So unless the board wanted to, how they want to provide that feedback to me, if it's a separate committee meeting with the committee, I don't know what that looks like. But the reason that November 25th was given is because it's the last meeting of the year.
Well, I'm inclined after the agenda meeting, and Brittany and myself both agreed on it, that it should be a committee as opposed to just me. And we both agreed it should be consisted of not more than 5 members. My thoughts on that would be we should at least at a minimum have 1 provincial appointee. Myself, I'm a community member and chair, and 1 council member and 2 others. Now I have thoughts on that, but I don't know what others think. Are they in agreement with a committee of 5? I think we can find a time. I don't anticipate this would take more than a meeting. And then there's of course the report, but it's a matter of setting 3 hours, 4 hours aside to do it.
And it does say December 31st is the deadline to provide the feedback to the detachment commander. So
December 31st for the feedback? Okay, but it should be the report prepared by November 25th.
if you want the board, I don't know, that's on my scope, that's for you guys to decide.
Beside that, let's start with the committee. Did you have any, sorry, Member Mack.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I agree that with your thoughts on having a community appointee, a provincial appointee, and 1 municipal rep. I think a committee of 3 would be adequate to conduct the detachment commanders. The larger the committee, getting meetings set up, it just becomes more difficult, and there is time restraints. And I would have confidence in a committee of 3 looking after that. So I would move a committee of 3, Mr. Chair.
Monica, did you have something to say on that?
Sure.
Not me?
Would you like to send an email?
You're gonna have to do it with an email.
Just a point of process. From my experience in the past, generally, if there is discussion around that, you would, and this is to the clerk or to staff, generally you go in camera,
Yes.
right? So when that comes back, we would take whatever comes back from the committee, the whole board would go into camera. We'd have that discussion if there's anything, and then we come back out and move ahead. So I just wanted to clarify that process.
That's correct.
Yeah, so I have a few comments. Thank you for getting the ball rolling on the form, Commander. We have in the meantime been given a template by the Association of Police Services Board. I would have liked time to cross-reference the two, but I understand because of timelines, we need to get moving on this. But perhaps we do, looking to staff, we need some kind of policy around this whole performance appraisal process that includes committee structure and timelines and all the rest of it, so that for next year we're a little more prepared. I would note that most performance management forms have a rating system, and it can be just as simple as meets expectations, exceeds, or does not meet. I believe that most boards have that kind of rating system. Of course, it's the feedback, the narrative that's the most valuable, but that's often, the rating system is often included as well. As per the number of committee members, I agree with Member Mackey, schedules are hard to work around. But I do wonder if more heads are maybe better than one, given that this is the first time we've done this. So I was more inclined to go with 5 members, but happy to go either way on that.
Other feedback? Member McQueen.
I'd support 5 just for the first year, and then maybe scale it.
Not knowing the actual Policing Act of 2019, we do these measurables or have the procedure and do the review. How do we know? Like, do we get anything sent back to us after we submit this and what we feel? And being that you're not our employee, how do we measure what you're going to hear from your boss on our comments?
So this
Is that kind of a stupid question?
No, I mean, I've never had one of these done before, so I've never seen what, the other side of it because I'm new in this, but it goes, my supervisor, the West Region Chief Superintendent, who's overseeing all of our region. So they get this final report or final feedback form, and they also do a evaluation on me each year as well.
No, but what I mean would, because we're enclosed when we do this performance review, I understand that. Would they report back to us that here's what we've taken from your recommendations and had a talk with the commander and said this is the things she needs to achieve in the next year?
They do not have that communication with me.
No. So whatever we send in, we have no idea what is given back to you.
Yes. Other than what I share.
A good performance review. I have no way of knowing whether I made a difference in how you are perceived in your job. Okay.
So in sense of time, I would suggest that from, if we go to 5, with regards to what you suggested, Mr. Chair, I was thinking of from maybe the municipal reps, maybe somebody who's from a regional approach as well, like from the southern part of Grey Bruce, maybe somebody in the center, and somebody that's maybe up the peninsula or something like that. So I'm not, I'm just thinking, just in the sense of geographic as well, if that doesn't make sense.
The new Jay.
Yeah, up north.
Did I say it wrong?
No.
So I just use that as a suggestion, Mr. Chair, because I know we're looking at 11:30 here almost, so just to get moving things along here, but,
Through you, Member Soros has expressed her interest via the chat in serving on the subcommittee.
Okay, I hear her. Okay, she's from the south end.
No question.
Sorry?
Sorry, did she have another question that she was typing?
No, she just expressed an interest in sitting on the committee.
Oh,
I think
see.
that was it. Any other comments or any other thoughts on whether it's 3, 4, or 5? My thought was on 5. I think Member McQueen had the same, at least for the first year, and Member Mackey figured the schedules might not work. We don't know. My suggestion would be go for 5. If the schedules don't work, somebody bumps off and we pare it down.
so I'll make it a suggestion.
Yeah.
It's yourself, the deputy chair, Councillor Mackey, Councillor Kirkland, Councillor Soros. Beyond that, I'm just making a suggestion. Just to move things along.
Did anybody else want to be on that?
Yeah, let's do that way first.
Well, let's start with, are there any other volunteers?
Mr. Chair, we should establish the number before we get into the composition. We've had
Okay,
a couple
so
of
it's
different
fixed.
things thrown out as far as
Anybody?
number. I would just like to point out to the board, the larger the committees that we have, the more budget impact we're going to have also, so.
I'm aware of that too. Okay, let's just ask by show of votes, 3 or 5, would that work? How many for 3? We've got 2. How many for 5? A lot more than 2. So we're going to start with 5. Okay, and the suggestion, anybody volunteering? The suggestion by, I think it was Member McQueen, was that Member Soros, myself, Vice Chair, who else was it? Member Kirkland and who got left off?
Mackey.
Member Mackey. Anybody else want to volunteer?
I would put my name forward only if one of the recommended ones by Member McQueen does not wish to participate.
I do not wish to participate. Go ahead.
Member Mackey has enough on his plate, Mr. Chair.
So just to finish that statement, November is a very busy time for me, and I know my schedule might be difficult to work around. So if we're sticking to a tight end of November timeline for this, I wouldn't be able to commit. But if it's more like the end of the year, then I think my schedule would be a little more flexible that way.
Well, we'll try to make the schedule work. So we're going with 5. We've got, I think myself, Vice Chair, Member McQueen, were you on that one? No.
Soros?
Soros, that's 3. Kathy, that's 4. And who's the 5th? Marla?
I don't think that could be. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Who's not here? Can we appoint
Based on what
someone
I'm
here?
it may be a
I would
benefit
just-
to have a community appointee or a provincial appointee. We don't have a community appointee at all.
I'm a
We have
community
one-
appointee.
Oh, you are, sorry, my apologies.
That's okay.
I feel as the board chair, it's probably imperative that you participate, but.
Yes, but a community appointee
But a
also.
community or provincial appointee, because we do have two council appointees at
Well,
this.
Carl,
I'll move Carl.
Carl, you're a community appointee, aren't you?
Apparently I am, yes.
There are the 5.
We just appointed you.
You just did. Sorry?
Just a question, Chair. Do you have to have quorum for this? So in other words, if something happened that somebody couldn't make it, are 3 suitable?
I
Yes.
think so.
Okay, perfect.
I think so. So we've got Member Ellis, Vice Chair, Chair, Georgian Bluffs, and was it McQueen? Southgate, sorry, Monica. There are the 5. So right at the end of the meeting, let's get our calendars out. Yes, Carly.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just to formalize this direction, I would recommend that the main motion be amended to read that the second to last paragraph be amended to say, now therefore, the Grey Bruce Joint Detachment Board provides the following direction regarding the composition of the review structure. That a detachment commander performance review subcommittee be struck to complete the process prior to November 25th, 2025, consisting of the following members. 1, Chair Jerry Solish. 2, Member Monica Singh Soros. 3, Vice Chair Robert Nickel. 4, Member Carl Ellis. And 5, Member Kathy Moore Cover.
In favor?
You just-
Sorry.
Through you, Mr. Chair, you need a mover and seconder.
Oh, let's start there. Mover? Okay, seconder? Member Soros? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
That's all for me. Thank you.
Here you go.
Now to call, through you, Mr. Chair, now to call the vote on the motion as amended.
True. Do you want to read? You want to read that motion as amended?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the full motion reads that whereas the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019 mandates the detachment board to monitor the performance of the detachment commander, and whereas the Ontario Provincial Police have generated a standard operating procedure to govern the performance review process. Now therefore, that the Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board provides the following direction to staff regarding the composition of the review structure. That a detachment commander performance review committee be struck to complete the process prior to November 25th, 2025, consisting of the following members. 1, Chair Jerry Solers. 2, Member Monica Singh Soares. 3, Vice Chair Robert Nickel. 4, Member Carl Ellis. 5, Member Kathy Moore Coburn, and that all comments be provided by the subcommittee via the required forms prior to the November 25th board meeting.
All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Okay. I think we're up to administration and finance. Almost there. Matt and Smiler. Are being grilled shortly. That the recommendation is to receive the report that the Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board receive 2025 quarter 3 financial update for information, and that the Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board approve the 2026 draft budget, and that staff be directed to circulate the 2026 budget to participating municipalities. Do we have a mover? Moved by Member Martin, and seconded. Seconded by the Vice Chair. Member Nickel. Samantha.
Thank you, and through you, I'm just wondering if it might be beneficial to have the chart placed up on the screen. The material was saved in the folder. While that is coming up on the screen, I will start with some discussion here. Please, if you have questions while we are going through it, let me know, and I'd be happy to answer them throughout. My answer may be I'm going to speak to that in a minute, but we will take questions as we go through. What we have in front of you is the summary of the different expenditures and the 2025 approved budget that was set by this board, our actuals as of September 30th, and an implied annualized estimate of what actuals may be. We also have 2 options for you. That your motion that you just tabled will need an amendment to include whichever option this board wishes. There may be 2 options here. However, if the board also wants another option, we can do that as well. When looking at staff salaries and benefits, going into 2025, staff knew that we were going to be at the Georgian Bluffs level undertaking a market check. So we had tried to anticipate what the results of that market check were going to be, which is why your 2025 budget is slightly higher. The results of the market check did result in estimated ending actuals being less, so there is some savings. When looking at the 2026 draft budgets, we have taken that results of the market check to apply what a half FTE would be. As mentioned earlier in this meeting, we are proposing to this board to maintain it to be a half FTE for the purposes of 2026. I did speak to the staff member in relation, and we don't have a strong understanding to know, is the 50% correct? Is it closer to 60? We'd be taking a guess at this point. The 50 we believe is the minimum that has been spent. We will take the next few months to monitor and track that more closely. And there may be, if we find we are way off, that it's closer to 80%, staff may be presenting to this board an amendment to your budget to reflect that. If we are slightly off, we will determine and advise this board if there is capacity within your budget to address any of that difference after the 6-month evaluation. When looking at per diems, we are anticipating a slight overage for the purposes of 2025. This is related to some additional duties that the board chair had undertaken, which were reimbursable for per diems. Looking at a 2026 draft budget and recognizing that this board has not set the cadence or frequency of their 2026 meetings, we have maintained it on the basis of 10 meetings throughout the year. If that does get changed to a lower number, then the budget is still sufficient to cover those additional duties. And we don't always anticipate that every member may make every meeting, so there is capacity potentially within that budgeted amount to account for those in the event you do have 10 meetings throughout 2026. When looking at mileage, we had made an estimate based on the number of meetings, how much mileage we would be anticipating. This board has shown an interest in participating more frequently at this site, so the mileage costs have been slightly higher than what we had been anticipating. Recognizing that may change as the board becomes more structured and comfortable with their proceedings, but in anticipation that this would only be the second year that we're going into, staff feel it would be appropriate and reasonable to adjust your mileage to reflect that preference for provincial and committee appointees to attend in person and having the funds available for those mileage. Professional development, 2025 estimated actuals, we recognize that this is a section where it was under budget. Part of that is largely due to the timing of when the budget was passed compared to when the annual conference was. So we are trying to get the budget here in front of you early to allow those opportunities for the professional development, a bit more pre-planning as to who may attend the annual conference and what other professional development opportunities may be available to the board. Again, the per diems, mileage, professional development, those are all for your provincial and committee appointees. It does not take into account any elected officials representation. Those are to be remunerated at the participating municipalities pursuant to their professional development and remuneration policies. When looking at materials and supplies, there has been more. These meetings do include a breakfast, which had not originally been budgeted. We also in 2026 will be having an election, which will result in a new inaugural meeting for this board once those appointees are given and they will need their swearing in ceremony. So we are trying to account and have some funds available for those additional expenditures. When looking at finance and administration, again, this is one that we're going to take the 6 months to kind of track and see where it lands. Finance and administration does not always just include the staff that might be in this room. When looking strictly at finance, there is a staff member who does the invoices, who pays the bills, who reconciles. We can't have one individual doing all of that. Otherwise, we run the risk of a lack of segregation of duties, which can then trigger a concern if you don't have the proper segregation from audit risks and other financial risks. This next item, being the donations, is where the two options are coming in. At the last meeting, this board received a delegation from Crime Stoppers, and you were asking to have it come back as part of your budget. So we have prepared two budgets, one that includes the bronze, I believe, contribution to Crime Stoppers. Donation is a generic title for a specific reason. Although Crime Stoppers does have their program, that may not be the only donation that this board may look at. When looking at memberships, we are proposing no change to the budget. There was a slight reduction compared to the actuals for 2025. This was a timing of when
it had been paid versus when it expires. So we believe that the 8,250 membership is still a reasonable annual budget. And when looking at your insurance, we have received renewals saying that there has been no change in premiums, so we are adjusting the budget to reflect that. Depending on which option you wish to go with, option 1, which does not include a donation, would have municipal contributions totaling $97,200 or $10,800 per municipality compared to the current $10,000. If you do wish to proceed with option 2, that would have municipal contributions totaling $102,200 or approximately $11,355 per municipality. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chair, through you to Samantha. If Georgian Bluffs, do you anticipate Georgian Bluffs incurring any additional expenses around an audit or a review engagement associated with this board? And if so, is that reflected in the finance and administration cost of this budget?
So through you, Chair, we are still talking to our auditors. It was to be included. It was tested as part of Georgian Bluff's audit, that it has been accounted for as part of that finance and administration, but that is also something that when we're taking the 6-month period to review, making sure that we account for those along with technology overhead that right now we are using Georgian Bluff's facilities for, so there is impacts that around that we also need to take into account under that finance and administration.
Go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do have a reserve, right?
Yes, we do. It is included under in this report. There is a balance at the end of 2024 being $35,603. We are anticipating a slight surplus for the purposes of 2025 of $1,726, which once we know the actual number, staff will bring forward a request asking what the board would wish that slight surplus, if there is a surplus, or potentially a deficit.
Follow up, Mr. Chair. I was wondering if the Crime Stoppers, there's a surplus this year as well, is more focused on our reserve versus coming in a general budget. It's sort of, I don't know, I only feel that out for other conversations.
Member Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. As far as the Crime Stoppers, I mean, very good organization, and I know they come to individual municipalities. And that's where I believe that decision should be made for a contribution. I mean, the elected officials in the room are the custodians of the public purse. And that's where I think the decision around our municipal budget should be in regards to Crime Stoppers. So that's my comment on that part of it. Professional development, I'm not sure that the board has established the number of conferences. It was touched upon by Monica about attendance at conferences, and the elected officials here, we all have a policy around the number of conferences that we can attend, and some have a dollar figure attached to them. Typically a conference costs about $3,000 to go to. So our budget would allow 3 members of this board to attend the Police Services Conference. I'm not sure how many want to go, how many we want to allow to go. Again, it's going to go back onto the budget. So I've not heard, I know that Kathy went, and I believe you went, Mr. Chair.
No,
You didn't, okay, Vice Chair went.
I'll be at the next one.
Julie, it's certainly a good opportunity for people to go to. It's just the amount that it's going to cost us. You know, we have a big board here. So if 10 members go, that's very expensive.
I think that just on that, isn't the councillors, their own municipality takes care of?
The council.
So it would only be the.
So we have 9 provincial and public community appointees, right? Isn't there 9?
6.
6?
3 and 3.
6.
So that's, yeah.
So $18,000 is what
I'm just gonna reflect on what Member Mackey is saying. I think we should look at some restrictions in terms of keeping conference attendance down and having different members have the ability to attend with the requirement that they come back and present so that learning is shared and that's more cost effective. As per the Crime Stoppers, I believe this is exactly the budget where that ought to be because it's so tied to policing and crime. For the difference it makes when you spread that out, if you look at the difference between municipal contributions, is pretty minimal. So I would suggest I'm in favor of option 2.
As am I.
Through you, Chair Solish. Member Source has submitted a few questions for me to read. Some may have already been touched on, but I will just read them as sent. They're forwarded from from the Deputy Mayor of Southgate. Why does the Gravers OPP Detachment Board have a $35,000 reserve? I don't know, do you want me to pause after each? Okay.
So through you, the $35,000 reserve was established under your 2024 budget, whereby each municipality did contribute the requested amount. I believe it was $5,000. However, this board had not been fully established in 2024, so the expenditures were much less, resulting in the surplus which was put into reserves. It is still staff's intention to bring forward to this board a reserve policy that outlines what those funds can be spent on. Unfortunately, we have not had that prepared yet for the board's review.
The next question that she had.
My apologies, I'm also taking minutes, sorry. Are the municipal contributions and reserves intended to cover the cost of administration, provincial and community member remuneration, and conference expenses? Sorry, apologies, Brian, to you again.
To review, those are components of what the municipal contributions are covering. However, all the expenditures being covered are listed in this report.
Do you have any further questions?
Yeah, there are, through you, Chair, there are 3 additional points. Do the terms of reference for this board allow full discretion on the spending of any reserved funds?
Review, that will come back through your reserve fund policy.
While Crime Stoppers is a very deserving organization, could those funds be better allocated to lower the OPP board financial impact on member municipalities?
Through you, that was the purpose of the 2 options in this report to look at.
And lastly, have any of the member municipalities or counties supported Crime Stoppers in 2025? I believe this was a question posed at their council meeting. She's saying, I believe this was a question asked in our previous meeting, but the answer wasn't clear in the report.
If I could speak to the issue of Crime Stoppers, it was pointed out by Member Mackey that you're approached as individual municipalities by them for contributions. And of course, we know that 100% of our budget is funded by those same municipalities. The question in my mind is where better to illustrate support for the organization directly from the municipalities continuing to make their contributions that way, or collectively through a portion of our budget. And if you approach it that way, perhaps the municipalities realizing that part of their contribution to this board go to Crime Stoppers, they would then choose to make that point with Crime Stoppers that would be a duplication of their contribution. They could still do it if they wish, but that might just send a message, and perhaps that's what Member Colburn's getting at, that we want to support them and we want to show that the police are behind the work that they do and the benefit that they actually provide to Marla and her folks.
Yeah, so just to reiterate what I said at one of the last meetings, that a lot of municipalities do not have eliminated donation policies. But I believe member Sorensen's question was how many member municipalities are donating to Crime Stoppers currently. I can tell you that Georgian Bluffs is not.
Northern Bruce Peninsula donated $1,000 in 2025.
We're the same as Georgia Bluffs, we did not.
Queen, did you have a comment there?
Yeah, and on that, we have not either. I got two comments that I originally suggested, that there seems to be support of the Crime Stoppers, and I would say for the 2026 budget, it comes out of reserve, because there's been questions around why do we have a reserve? We did some movement of that reserve earlier on this year for this year's budget. And number two, as on the sense of conferences, for the dollars are there, I would say that from the appointees, whether public or provincially, it's split over 2 years. If there's 6, then 3 go this year and 3 go next year, and then that way there's equal opportunity, and maybe with the exception of the chair, which can come back up through it. I think the chair should be always well versed of the latest and greatest. But so I make 2 suggestions, and I don't know if that needs to be a motion, that Crime Stoppers comes out of our reserve. And number 2 is that the conference portion is split over the members over 2 years. So 3 go this year, 3 are available to go next year. With the exception of the chair, then I think that would come back through a budget process.
Marlon.
Just while we're talking about this, we discussed it yesterday at the Detachment Commander Summit last week. Lisa Darling from OAPSB was there, and she said it would be a good opportunity for us to speak to our boards as well about sending the Detachment Commander to some of these conferences. So something for your consideration. The OPP obviously cannot send all of the Detachment Commanders. They pick like 3 out of each region, so very limited. So just something to consider, and whether you would support that or not.
Thank you for mentioning that. There were a presence of police leadership at the conference, and I believe they were getting a lot out of it, but we also got a lot out of their attendance because they were able to speak up from a policing perspective as well, so I definitely would support that.
And being a new detachment commander, I think it would be beneficial to go to at least one.
Just a question. We sent 3 this past year, myself and Kathy, and Jody was there. Now, that raises the issue. I don't know, who paid for Jody's attendance? Was that out of our budget or the townships?
I think Samantha did.
Okay, and so if you want to send Jody every year, then it's under the premise that her costs would be covered by your administrative budget. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Samantha, you were saying.
So through you, although the professional development is mostly used for the conference, there is other potential professional development opportunities that may be extended to this board. So I do just want to highlight that it's not just the cost of the conference. The professional development estimated ending actuals that is shown here is reflective of the 1 provincial appointee who did attend. We will be taking into account your administrator's cost under our finance and administration fees when doing that 6-month analysis. As for the 3rd member, being a member of Georgian Bluffs Council, that was utilized against their council appointed spending allocation. So the 1,552 that is shown here was for the 1 provincial appointee, being yourself, Member Nickel, to attend.
Okay, can we narrow this down? I think we got about three things that we need to discuss and kind of split vote on. So the first one would be the conferences, and I don't know how we want to get an answer on everybody's doing. I'm going to just voice my opinion. I'm okay with the 3 each year, because if there is a 4th one, it could come back to the board if we put it into our reserve policy. Then upon board approval, we can pull from reserves for somebody to go to a conference if it's that important to a person. So I didn't know if we wanted to just get a consensus if that's the way we're feeling, and then we can move on to the next thing, which would maybe be Crime Stoppers, whether we're leaving it in as all or leaving it municipalities as the second, and then it's just a suggestion to the chair.
Okay, Kathy's nodding. I would suggest that, and I happen to agree with you, you select the 3, and if you have to draw from the reserve, you draw from the reserve.
And so how, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say a point specific to that, and I like how you think with, let's just chunk this into three things and do it in sequence. I think the board can approve for 3 to go, but if a member municipality member chooses to attend and that's coming out of their council budget, I don't think we can say to them that person can't go. Am I correct in? Right, okay, so we're mostly talking about the community members and the provincial entities.
Well, the community members, provincial appointee, and our staff, like is our staff considered the OPP or Jody, is that, you're probably not our staff, or how do we word that?
They just said they're paying for it, right?
Detachment commander.
We're not paying for that.
Yeah, okay, but would it always be
Or designate?
specific, right, would it always be specific to the detachment commander?
That's my question.
Yeah, the OPP is paying for you, are they not?
No, that's what I'm.
That's what she's saying, they're not paying.
They're not.
I believe there's a select number from each region that they allow so many spots, but I
So I think if we budget 3 plus, I think it's important that our detachment commander.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So if we have 3 plus the detachment commander, and then any approval, if somebody wants to be more than that, it comes back for a board vote, and we can pull from reserve. Put that in our reserve.
From the budget, or from the.
So I put that question on the table first, if we wanted.
You moving that, Jay?
Yeah, well, I don't know if we can, when it should be.
Samantha, you were gonna say something, because Carol was gonna weigh in next.
Oh, apologies.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just looking for a bit of clarification in that request. Are you looking to decrease the 10,500? Okay.
No, what I'm saying is that 10,500, we're allowing 3 people to go to a conference plus the detachment, or designate from the OPP or from our police. And any more than that would come from reserves upon board approval. If we put that in our reserve policy, so we can do that upon the voting of the board, we can pull from reserves, a 4th can go. Or if we're gonna be short, we can adjust that. 'Cause this year is gonna be another adjustment. So does that clarify what
Yes.
I'm putting on?
Nope, just wanted to clarify, because the act of 4, in essence, going to.
Carol, you have something to add, and then we can.
So through you, Chair. Samantha, I'm just struggling to understand our reserves. Are we clear at this point about what our reserve fund can be used for? Do we have policy on that? Is it clear?
So for you, not at this moment. I am working on creating a reserve policy to bring forward to this board.
So where are we then?
Well, this could be, if we agree to this, she could add that phrase to the policy, that upon a board approval, we can pull from reserves to send a person to a conference, or that it would be one of the bullet points that she will be putting when she's building her policy around reserves.
Correct, Samantha?
Yeah.
Sure.
So comment, couple things. Last year, we have a cost of $1,552. I remember Mackie said it costs up to $3,000. And I know your policy is gonna come back to say, room accommodations, mileage, food, all that kind of stuff, which we don't know right now. But I guess the question is, what was the true cost of attending that conference last year?
There were only 2 of us actually, because Jody was paid for by the township, right?
I was paid for by the township, sorry to interrupt. I wasn't clear on Samantha's answer. Did George and Bluffs pay for our staff member to attend then, or was that the board that covered that?
George and Bluffs did pay for that. We will take it into account in future finance and administration fees.
That'll be under professional development portion of the budget.
Right now, that 10,500 is set by the 1,500 that is in your policy for each provincial appointee, plus some additional funds.
So that cost was just for me really then. But did it pay for the registration fees as well of all people, or just me?
Yes, yours.
That's the cost for one person in effect.
Registration and hotel costs, and mileage. Or mileage would be
Well,
under a
that-
separate line.
Well, that would have been included in that number, wouldn't it? All my hotel costs, and it depends where you stay and the cost and how far you have to travel. It was in London. All these are gonna be somewhat variable.
But I think if that's more of a realistic number of 1,500 versus 3,000, that changes a little bit on that budget line as well. I'm going to suggest right now is we just leave that number in there because that's similar to what we had in there last year. And then when you get a policy coming back, the conference isn't until June.
It can be, it's June,
Yeah, it's
beginning, end of
June.
May, beginning of June.
So we have time to look at that policy and I suggest we leave the number there that is there right now. But bring that policy back and then that really fine tunes, because if all of a sudden 4 or 5 could go because of the dollar value from your policy, then maybe that works.
Go ahead, Kathy.
I just want to reiterate something that Member Kirkland said, because I don't want it to get lost. We're talking a lot about process, selecting who goes, deciding who covers what. All of that needs to be captured in policy, because I would hate to see next year the new board have to go through all these discussions again. So if we can get that set out in policy as was recommended, I think we'd all really appreciate that. And I'm not
today.
Not today.
Not today. I'm feeling a little chagrined, maybe is the word, about the excess costs that are landing on George and Bluff's shoulders. And I know I've said it before, I'm going to say it a little more pointedly now. I don't think that can continue because I have to go back to our council and then explain why. When the board didn't have any decision-making power over that. So some course correction perhaps. Thank you.
Okay. Where do we go from here? Oh, I'm sorry.
Through you, Chair, I just have another question submitted by Member Soares. If we want to just add it quickly before we vote. I apologize, I should bring it up here again. It was just a comment regarding training and conference planning. I'm just going to read verbatim. In reviewing the Q3 financial update and the draft 2026 budget, I note that professional development was underspent this year. To support strong board governance under the Community Safety and Policing Act, I would recommend that we plan and confirm board training and conference participation earlier in the year, so all members have the opportunity to participate. She does have some additional comments, but I may wait because they're not regarding this discussion. So I'll bring them forward at a subsequent part of the meeting.
So my point, Mr. Chair, is if everybody agrees here that we leave that number there and we move on to the other item and wait till the policy comes back, I think that moves things along. So that goes back to the other part of the Crime Stoppers. And I'm going to throw it out there that it comes out of this year's 2026 budget, it comes out of our reserves. I'll move that motion if somebody would like to second that.
Say it again.
That the Crime Stoppers budget line of $5,000 comes out of our reserves.
He wants to show option 2, but instead of coming from each individual municipality, we just pull from reserves.
Yeah.
Comments on that?
I'll second it, just to open it up for discussion.
Okay. Discussion on it.
So my point, Mr. Chair, I think it has been raised about our reserves. I think we have to be very careful. Our reserves, I see on professional development, we may have a reserve for 2025 too. So I think to be fair.
Pull the 5,000 from the reserves.
Yeah, that's my motion, yeah.
So I would concur, but I'm also interested in hearing from our detachment commander about what, perhaps she may have some ideas of how to spend some of the reserve money on special equipment, not today, Marla. Sure. You mentioned at one other meeting that sometimes there are events that you don't have funding for. So the reserves, I would assume, could be spent on something like that, a one-off suggestion from the detachment commander.
For future consideration.
He's nodding.
Not making a policy today.
Nope, it's not a policy today.
So I'm okay with the suggestion that we need to call a vote on that, or?
Yeah, we should.
On pulling the option 2, we pull from reserves for the, this year on Crime Stoppers. So the
So
$5,000.
the two are tied together.
Yep.
We have a motion on that?
Yes, we do.
Okay, we do. All in favor? Opposed, if any? 2. That's Member Martin and Member Mack.
Point of order, Mr. Chair, and that's for the 2026 budget as pointed out, so it could change the next year budget.
Once we get proposals.
It's clear. Okay.
Now, just on policy, are you taking what you're hearing from us going around the room, and when you do bring a policy back, we'll have discussion on it, but you'll give us a starting point of, okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, Member Kirkland had brought up about the number, the first point before we went to the contributions for Crime Stoppers, but brought up about the number of attendees, and I think he was recommending that it be 3 attendees plus the detachment commander. So I think we should put that to rest also.
Let's do it. That's it.
Point of that was what I was saying is wait until the policy, leave the budget line there and wait till the policy comes back, because it may change the numbers for you to remember, Mackie. That's what I was sort of saying, that let's wait till the policy comes back, leave the numbers in the budget for now, because the conference is until June.
Yeah, you know what, that's wiser.
That's,
At
but I
least in
just
my
saw that as a
opinion,
comment.
I agree with you. I think,
The numbers will change. I mean, it's easy math. I mean, our per diems cost $900 a day to send a member down. Your hotel is going to be $900, and then your travel and your meals on top of that. I mean, we've been to a lot of conferences, and I know what the hotels cost, and I know what per diems are. So that is a low figure, and I'm glad Mr. Nickel was able to do it for that amount, but that won't be reflective going forward of what the true cost of the conference is. So the 10,000 would probably allow us to send 3 plus a detachment commander. I'm pretty confident in that. So, I mean, it was just brought up about the number, so I think we need to establish so that people have an opportunity to put their name forward for different conferences and to know that, you know, you may get to go this year, but it might be 2 years before you get to go to another one.
you want to
We haven't talked about that.
establish it now.
Well, I think we should.
We can give direction to Treasury to bring that, to put it into policy right now. I do hear both sides of the story,
Yeah, I get it.
but we can give direction now that it's 3 plus the detachment commander. And put that vote on the table, and if it's not, then we go the other way.
We need a motion on that one. Okay. You want to go on? Go ahead.
I'd be happy to second that.
Okay, let's be clear. Read the motion.
Could we ask Treasury, who's going to be coming up with the policy, do you understand what we had just said? What I believe was just said was within the policy coming back for the training is 3 people, 3 not municipal members, 3 the community and the provincial appointees, plus the detachment commander for each year for conferences. And if anybody else wants to go, they have to come back to the board for pre-approval to be pulled from reserves.
The only thing I would add to that is, to Member Mackey's point, was it's sort of a rotating people. So not the same 3 people, other than the detachment commander or their designate, right? So it's sort of a rotating thing. That's all I would add.
And just as a minor point, I would also add that the expectation is that those attendees present to the board at the next summary.
As you did last time. Yeah, you and Bob did, yeah.
While we're beating this to death, you know, it was just, Samantha mentioned that Jody was paid for through Georgian Bluffs,
Yeah.
which isn't the way it should be going forward. It should be coming out of this budget. So the number, you know, if it's 3 committee provincial appointees, Jody should be included in that as well as the detachment commander. So it's reflective in this budget and not, I'm concerned that the staff and salaries is going to go up significantly based on just some of the information I've heard, you know, at the number of staff that Georgia Bluffs has here today. And what that, I think I heard $9,000 was that cost. Well, 10 meetings is $90,000. So I don't want to see that top line, you know, going up significantly, or we're going to really have to look at the number of meetings that we're having, because these costs can really explode on us if we're not careful. So anyway, I think Jody should be covered. I think 3 members should be covered and the inspectors. That would be a total of 5.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I think it was super helpful, Jody, I don't want to speak for you, but I think it was super helpful for Jody to be there. But that is meant for board members, is my understanding, that conference. Jody's not a board member. Are there other, like, do they ever have conferences for admin of police service boards that would be more geared towards perhaps what your role is and the tasks that you perform?
That is the annual conference by OAPSB. To my knowledge, it's not separated additionally for administrators. I know they have just those drop-in sessions that you and I have attended, separate for board administrators, but I believe that is the conference for both. I did meet quite a few board administrators there, but again, it was the first year that boards were created, so I don't know if that's consistent or if it was just for years.
Nicole, were you weighing in with a comment?
The only thing I was going to say is, I think we're getting hung up on something that I don't think we need to get hung up on. Professional development can come in a lot of different ways. It is not just one specific conference. Professional development can encompass a lot of different things. So if those dollars are on exactly that. So, you know, I just don't want to get hung up on just that conference.
I heard your comments, Member Colburn, about coming back and making a report, and you and I talked about that, and I was very appreciative of all the work you put into it and thought you did an excellent job, and I think that goes without saying. But I think we could spend the next 2 or 3 hours talking about the merit of professional development. There were individual breakout sessions that took place. And as much as we all went to those, I don't know that you can necessarily come back and in a relatively brief report get the benefit that those people on this board would have got if they had been there. So my point here is not to debate the merits of more people going at more cost or less people going at lower cost, but to just suggest that I think we should set this item on our agenda for a future meeting and talk about it and make these decisions where everybody gets an opportunity to make some decisions based on the merit of money being spent and the importance of the money being spent, even to include members of the OPP. The same argument, well, they're not part of the board either. Well, what's the benefit of that? We should talk about that. What benefit is there for Jody to attend? And how did she feel she got some benefit? Does she need to do it again? Every year. So I just think if we're going to talk about make all these decisions, let's set aside it on the agenda for a future meeting. Mr. Chair, that would be my recommendation at least.
This is going to take time. Go ahead.
So I'm going to move a motion that either this motion is either referred or deferred to a future meeting.
Yeah.
And we can put that on the floor. So it's we're right now with the budget, but I'll move that.
Agreement that
refer this to a
be
future
either referred or deferred,
whatever our procedure
was worded to another meeting.
Just the composition of the 5 members?
Just the whole discussion
The whole
around.
discussion.
The whole discussion. We're getting, you can have points down, report is required, a double carpooling. There's so many dynamics around the whole aspect of this budget line.
Samantha.
For you, so hearing this discussion, I think this board is maybe needing 2 separate policies that's coming back. One is around your reserve funds, what those funds can be used for. Another is more around expense management and what can professional development be spent on. What makes up the salary numbers? What makes up finance and administration. So I think you might be better to have two separate policies in that respect, which then helps not only this board, but future boards know how was salaries and benefits determined? How was professional development determined? And that's where some of the conference spending around how many are attending each conference can be outlined and detailed. My second comment was going to be, if this board would like the funds for Jody to attend that conference in 2025 to be reallocated from Georgian Bluffs to the board, we are anticipating a slight surplus in this board's 2025 estimated actuals. There is capacity to reallocate that for the purposes of 2025.
I would agree with you, and if I may make my comments, we're bogging down in the minutia, as they say. And we could be sitting here going on and on, but this should, in my view, as it was suggested by Member McQueen, be deferred to a later meeting, and perhaps you could put something out to the board indicating all of the options and summarizing them. Not necessarily with a recommendation, but all of the options and the cost of those options. Is that putting an onus on you?
Through you, that will not be available for your November meeting, which then means it would not be coming until 2026. So I want to highlight many municipalities may already be in budget, that the purpose of having this presented to the board in October was to try October, was to try to be in advance of municipal budgets so they had a number to work with for their budget purposes.
Okay, let's start with Brittany.
I think I would recommend that for the purposes of today and for the purposes of your budget, you hold the 10,500. We've built the 10,500 based on this board's remuneration policy. So
And then amend the budget later,
So
if necessary.
draw from reserves.
correct, we would draw from reserves. So just for the purposes of today, I think we understand that we need to come back with a couple different policies, be it a conference and seminar attendance policy, an expense policy, or a reserves policy. There's been a lot of different discussions today. We will take it back, create those policies that can govern the minutia, as you say. But for the purposes of today and for the purposes of your budget, I would recommend you maintain the 10,500 as presented.
That is my thought too, defer it. But in the meantime, I understand what Samantha's saying. Municipalities need to know a number so that they can take it back. So you're suggesting we go with this and then at a later date, we get this back on the next, or not the next meeting, but one thereafter, with a proviso that it allows to draw from the reserves if necessary. Is that correct?
I think so, as long as we're approving the budget.
My word, Mr. Chair, we had a motion on the floor to set to set a number in place. I've asked for a motion, I haven't got a seconder, it'd be deferred till a policy comes back. So I think that if I get a seconder, then that can be dealt with, and then we can go back to the budget.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Just discussion on that.
Oh, sorry, discussion on that. Go ahead, sorry.
Does that mean that this budget will be passed today, but not the procedures of how we spend those dollars?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm good with that, so as long as a figure comes to my municipality after today of what the budget's gonna be, so they can be in my budget. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, Jody.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, just prior to the vote, Member Soares has sent an email regarding, possibly a comment on a policy to come forth from Treasury. I'll just read the comment again verbatim if that's fine for the record. It's regarding Reserve and Crime Stoppers contribution, which I know we did vote on, but it does speak to policy. Southgate Council has requested clarification regarding the reserve balance and the historical purpose of allocating funds to Crime Stoppers. Member Soares, would request the staff prepare a concise written report briefing the board outlining the original intent of establishing the reserve, the current allowable uses under policy, and the rationale behind the Crime Stoppers contributions for the board's review prior to the next budget cycle.
For you, that will be your reserve policy.
What are you suggesting?
I think for the purposes of today, we are looking for a budget. Staff know we have other policies to do, so if we can scope the discussion to be about the budget, that may help us from, in essence, going down the rabbit hole of the other things. We know there are a few policies that we have to create. Those discussions should be deferred at this time, which they have just said.
We haven't voted yet.
Well, this was on the table, sorry. When looking at a 2025 budget, we're looking for a number to go back to the municipalities.
And is there a motion on the floor?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, there is.
Let's get it clear. What is the motion? Carly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I believe there was a motion to defer the conversation about annual conference attendance. I have something worded that I can read if it's helpful. That discussion related to attendance at the annual Ontario Association of Police Services Boards be deferred, and that staff be directed to establish a policy regarding parameters around professional development spending and reserve management at a future meeting.
Is there any mover?
Yes.
Just point of clarity, is that's sort of rolled into the deferral, right? Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we've got it. Member McQueen moved it and Vice Chair seconded. All in favor? Opposed, if any? None. Carried. Any further motions? Oops, I'm sorry.
I have to leave at 12:30 for a medical appointment, and so I just want to let folks know if I have to deke out in 15 minutes, that's why.
Okay. So point of where right now we have a motion on the budget itself, right?
Motion on the budget is to approve the budget as it. Go ahead, Samantha.
Oh, there was, sorry, Samantha, there was a motion earlier that we take the $5,000 from reserves for the crime stoppers. So that would reduce the budget by $5,000 to the municipalities. Is that what you were gonna ask, Samantha? Sorry for coming in here.
Okay, for you, so my understanding of the motion that was presented before related to budget specifically was we are looking for a kind of combination of 1 and 2, so I'm gonna call it 1.5, which includes the 5,000 donation, has the municipal contributions as the 97,200, and a revenue source of funds transferred from reserves of $5,000 to have it in balance.
Member Mack.
I'll move that, Mr. Chair.
And the seconder.
I'll second.
Seconded by Member Kirkland. All in favor? All opposed? Any opposed, if any? Not even the police. Passed. Okay, can we move on? Ms. Carly.
Mr. Chair, through you, you had 2 amendments that were passed, and you now need to call the vote on the main motion as amended.
Okay, do you want to read it? Talk about bogging down in minutia.
Okay, so the recommendation whole with the amendments reads that the Grey Goose OPP Detachment Board receive the 2025 Q3 financial update for information, and that the Grey Goose OPP Detachment Board approves the 2025 draft budget with a municipal contribution of $97,200, with the Crime Stoppers contribution of $5,000 being funded from the board's reserve, and that discussion related to attendance at the annual Ontario Association of Police Services Boards conference attendance be deferred, and that staff be directed to establish a policy regarding parameters around professional development spending and a reserve management policy at a future meeting, and that any additional attendance requires approval from the board, and that those who attend be required to provide a summary, and that staff be directed to circulate the 2025 budget to participating municipalities.
We have a mover. Or do we have one? Yes.
Can I just correct it to 2026 versus 2025?
Thank you.
26 budget.
26 budget. Thank you. And on that, we have a mover.
Through you, I do have the wording as 2026 draft budget.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And Member Kirkland is moving. Seconder, member, Deb.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I was simply reading the motion. It's already been amended. You have all the appropriate movers and seconders.
Got it. All in favor? Opposed, if any? None, thank goodness. And is there one left? Was there one left, Carly?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's it for budget.
Okay.
And now we are on item that was for 6.2.2, which is now 7.2.2, participation in OAPSB Zone 5 meetings.
Okay. The report to be received is that the Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board designate 2 members plus an alternate to attend the OAPSB Zone 5 meetings on behalf of the board, and that attending members provide a brief or written report of the subsequent Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board meetings summarizing key information and takeaways. Do we have a mover? Member Coleman. Seconder. Member Nickel. Julie.
Through you.
Okay.
I just had to put in there my apologies. I'm getting quite a few emails, so that I will be reading out after we report. Yes. So it was brought up at last meeting, I believe by member, I believe it was McQueen, regarding attendance at OAPSB meetings. And so this report comes from that. So it was recommended by Lisa Darling of OAPSB that 2 to 3 members attend these meetings. We put forward the recommendation just to maintain fiscal responsibility of 2 members plus an alternate to attend. 2 of the meetings can be attended virtually due to weather, which is nice because they often are, I think the last one was in Guelph, for example, so you will be traveling to these meetings, and then the other 2 will be in person as they are quarterly. Just a sort of brief background, I'm sure everyone's familiar by now, but the OAPSB is the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards, and it's a provincial organization that represents all these service boards in Ontario, providing advocacy, education, and networking opportunities to support effective civilian governance. The main takeaways from these meetings will be informed decision-making, representation at provincial level, networking, and best practices, and knowledge sharing, because we have recommended that those attending will bring back a report, be it verbal or written, to other board members for sharing. Just a brief financial impact note, there is a $250 annual OAPSB Zone 5 fee. It wouldn't be in addition to, as we are already paying it, we are already members, we just haven't had a chance to utilize that membership because we didn't have direction as to who was to attend, which we're hoping to gather from this. And additionally, the remuneration policy will come into play if you elect select provincial or community appointees to attend. And yeah, and I believe I'll just, if you have any questions, I'm not sure if Janine is still online. She may be able to answer them for myself.
She's online? No, she's not.
So if you have any for me.
So just on that, through you, Mr. Chair, from my experience on the Zone 5, they rotate throughout different areas. Maybe in Guelph, Waterloo, they may be in Orangeville, maybe in Old Sound. A couple things come to mind is, I think it should be able to rotate through provincial or community representatives on this board. I know from a municipal representation on the board, I don't see that there could be restrictions on that because we're remunerated from our own councils on the budget that is there. But saying that, there may be times where it's in Old Sound, it may be advantageous that 3 or 4 or 5 people could attend because it's just up the road versus all the way driving to Guelph. I think this goes back to policy of carpooling and all that stuff as well. So I find that, I don't know, anybody else want to comment about the zone fives, but they do have a higher level of information that comes there. And they also, you know, we're all busy and we all may not be, we all may only be able to attend once a year collectively. So it's sort of hard to point two or three members only from the simple fact that it's a busy schedule. They may or may not be able to attend. So I don't know. I just throw that out for discussion purposes, but I certainly support, you know, people attending those Zoom meetings, but they do rotate. Like I said, if their own sound might be more advantageous, that more people could go, because other than the attending of that, and I guess from the public or the public or provincial, there would be the remuneration from that, from the board itself. Volunteer.
I would put forth a motion that we approve that 2 members of the board attend.
To be named.
And further to your point, let's just keep it loose as to who can go, because we don't know who's going to be available and all the rest of it. Carpooling would be encouraged to keep the cost down. So I would say let's just approve it, because we should be a participant in the organization, but we don't need to designate certain individuals that have to attend all these meetings that might not be able to attend or don't want to. So I put that motion forward.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay. Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having attended these provincial meetings for a number of years, there's benefit to having consistency in who attends. So just willy-nilly, whoever wants to go to this one, I don't think really worked for the purposes of the board. I think we're better having, as was recommended, 2 representatives with an alternate that are going to, that can change on a yearly basis, who that is, but I think it's important from my experience that you have consistency on who your representatives are. Thanks.
I was going to say those exact words, a couple of members and then even a couple of alternates. I think the consistency is important. And we also need to think about costs. So if we have more people going and keep it loose like that, then we're going to see that part of our budget perhaps increase as well.
Comments? Further comments? I'm sorry. Carly, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I may be speaking out of turn, but I believe that we do also have some voting rights that are associated with our membership. And therefore, just when the recommendation was brought forward by staff, that consistency, I think, was embedded in that recommendation so that, you know, we can have an informed vote and informed participation in those zone meetings. So I do understand that we do have some voting rights depending on the substance of the meeting, and I just wanted to make that clear for the board that there is some benefit to consistency in that regard. The second point I wanted to make is that if it's loose and, you know, certain members can attend and it doesn't matter whom is attending, we as staff should probably have some guidance from the board on how that process unfolds. So, for example, are we just notifying members that there's a board meeting and we're taking the first 2 people who volunteer to attend? I would just caution that for our purposes, some structure around a looser process would be appreciated in that regard as well.
You would want to see the names of the individuals at this point.
Thank you through you. Yes, I think for staff's purposes in administrating and facilitating the attendance, as well as from the finance perspective of remunerating members for attending those meetings, I think would make a lot of sense to have consistent membership as well as for the benefit of the association. So they have an idea of who's attending and just to actively participate and utilize those voting rights to their fullest extent.
And Jody wants to weigh in.
Through you, Chair Silverbush, I will just simply be reading a comment from member source who is continuing to have audio issues. Apologies. Simply, if we do move in the direction of naming an individual, she has expressed interest in either being one of the 2 or an alternative.
Back to what route do you want to take? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. In my experience, the chair and often vice chair would be the ones that would attend those meetings. Now, I'm not sure on your availability, but if
We don't even know, do we, when are these meetings? How frequently are they?
It says
what
here,
are we-
4 year.
and it said the months.
And that's,
and then look for one volunteer as an alternate.
you okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that. If that's what you want, that's what the board wants to do.
It says second Tuesday.
And you'll all be member Soros. Everybody seem to be, Brittany's nodding her head, so I guess we're going with it. Sorry, Paul.
Just going further what Mayor Mackey's saying, I think there's a little bit of a vacuum of knowing what these meetings are. As I recall, there are 2 meetings in one.
Yeah.
There's one with all the police chiefs are in the meeting. And then it splits off to your individual representation on their zone 5. And then you talk about issues there. Sometimes you get speakers. Sometimes, I'm thinking back in the sense of voting and specifically voting on certain items. I can't remember, they have a budget. I can't remember, but voting was I don't recall voting was very high on the list of taking a lot of votes, but I guess what I was sort of coming back in the sense of giving everybody the opportunity to attend is, I don't know if there are 4 meetings a year, is there a possibility that's determined at a board meeting before that next zone meeting, depending on the location? Because like I said, if it's up the road at Owen Sound, there may be opportunity to attend. Sometimes they have speakers, sometimes, and listen to on the half part of that meeting of the police chiefs talking about provincial. A lot of times we used to have, I'm trying to think of that provincial appointee, he would talk about, in the last few years, it was all about the Police Act coming forward and it's coming. Finally it came. But there's a lot of high level stuff. There's a lot of, I think it would be really good, and sure, if you want to set this, it should be changed later, but it would be really good if we could maybe send forward the last agenda of the last zone meeting to have an idea of what was on that meeting, so people have a better understanding, because I think there's a lot of, and maybe that's changed, I don't know, because they do elect a chair and a vice chair of those as well. So I'm okay with it today, but I think there's a lot of stuff that still the understanding of what those zone meetings are, I think it's there's a little bit of a void there as well.
You want to put it to a vote?
Call the question.
Sorry?
Call the question, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I would recommend, just for some clarity, that we do an amendment to the main motion to specifically appoint yourself, the vice chair, and member Soros as an alternate.
Okay.
So you need a mover and seconder.
I'm agreeable to that change to my motion.
Your mover is member Mackey, seconder.
No,
So mover was member Nickel
and Rainey, second.
and seconder member Rainey. All in favor? Any opposed? None.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the main motion as amended. You just need to call the vote on the main motion as amended.
And you want to read the main motion?
No, that's.
Just to be clear.
Yep, through you, Mr. Chair, the motion as amended reads that the Grey Goose OPP Detachment Board designates 2 members, Chair Jerry Solish, Vice Chair Bob Nickel, and member Monica Singh Soros as an alternate to attend the OAPSB Zone 5 meetings on behalf of the board, and that attending members provide a brief verbal or written report at the subsequent Grey Goose OPP Detachment Board meeting summarizing key information and takeaways.
And all in favor?
Just one comment, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to be clear that the board is authorizing 2 members to attend. We're paying for 2 members. The alternate would only come into play.
Is
if
an
the
alternate
chair
one
or
of-
the chair couldn't attend.
That's correct, by the sounds of it. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
All in favor?
We did.
We paid, we voted.
We're done. We're done.
We're done. Okay, thank you, Bob. Next. Anything further with Samantha? We've got all that in.
Agenda item 8.
Item 8. Any items that anyone would like pulled? You want an item pulled?
Member Soares does. Just one moment, and I apologize, I have to find it. I have the emails here. Here it is. So she said item 7.1.3, but there was an amendment, so let me just, it may be 8.1.3, the OPP cost recovery model update. Let me just go back to the agenda. Yes, member, sorry, it's through you, Chair, would like to pull 8.1.3, please.
8.1.
The email policy update response to OPP cost recovery model. Continue, yeah.
What's your comment about it?
Did we want to go through the responses that she, through you, Chair, she would like to acknowledge receipt of the Solicitor General's update regarding the changes to the OPP cost recovery model, including the 11% cap on 2026 billing increases and the revised eligibility threshold for calls for service and overtime discounts. For budgeting purposes, she would request that staff provide a brief summary at future meeting outlining how these regulatory amendments may affect projected policing costs to each member municipality once the 2026 billing statements are issued in November.
Yes, sir.
That's a question for each board here to deal with, Mr. Chair. Not for the board here. What she's referencing is the billing to each member municipality. So it has nothing to do with the board. It would be my take on it, but.
That's
what you're hearing from administration. There's your answer for it.
Thank you.
Okay. No other items, no other suggestions of pulling an item? No? Therefore, that the consent agenda be received for information is circulated. We're there. Mover and a seconder. Mover by member Mackey, seconder. Mover Dowd. Yeah. We're up to correspondence. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You just need to call the vote on that motion to adopt the consent agenda.
I'm going to take a 2-minute washroom break in a minute anyway. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Let's move into correspondence. Is this going to take a bit of time?
You're through correspondence now and you're on to new business.
Just approved. Wonderful. New business. Further to notice provided by member Bob Nickel that as at September 23, 2025, board meeting. And?
I believe this was with respect to the composition and the continuity, right? That's what we talked about, and wasn't it that
was an option for amending the board's composition to prioritize continuity of board membership.
right? I don't think there was no indication that, were you folks going to bring back some suggestion or policy in that respect or suggestions, or how was that? I don't recall that we specifically decided.
The whole board could almost all turn over all at
Right,
once and not
yeah.
be here.
Yeah,
So we wanted to know, is there a certain, one member should have a 2-year term, one should have a 3-year term, just a discussion on that. So I don't know, I don't think we ever come up with a solution.
no, we didn't.
I don't know if we want to give direction to staff, because I don't think we give staff direction last time either. So did we need to give direction of what we want to see back so that something like your concern doesn't happen? believe that's what it was.
Well, my reason to raise it with our speaker today was so to get, what are they doing? What are other boards doing? They have the same issue, right? We don't have any miraculous solution for this, I don't think. Thus, is it an item, and her response, I don't know, I didn't really have any sense that they have any answers either. It maybe is what it is, and she pointed out, the one thing she did point out was that there's a little bit of a time gap from when the elections are held in November to when new members of council are in office in January, and that, I assume then, would have to be the time frame that you would work on this, getting people appointed, decisions made, that your municipalities would choose your committees, and then that onerous training that needs to be completed hopefully would be done, because we know what happened just to get this thing started. It took months and months for everybody to get up to speed and get all of that training done, and maybe there wouldn't be that much turnover. Then it's going to be what it's going to be, I guess. Maybe it's just an issue that we can't do anything about. I don't know.
Carly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Staff will be happy to take direction away to prepare a report. Just some initial comments is that there are some appointments we don't have any influence over, being the provincial appointments. Those are done entirely by the ministry. But with the election year coming up, we do have some plans in motion to start that committee recruitment a lot sooner. And just specifically with this board and the comprehensive training that is required, this will be one that won't be left to the last minute with, you know, a big gap between board memberships. But we would be happy to bring back a report that outlines what we do have influence and control over, and sort of what the plan is to do what we can as a board and as board administrators to maintain that continuity as much as possible.
Suggestion is the matter's deferred.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just simply a motion to direct staff to bring back that report would be sufficient.
I'll make a motion. Direct staff to bring back a report on it.
And a seconder on that motion. Wood. All in favor? Opposed, if any? None. Unfinished business? None. Is there something in there, Brittany, we're going to put in? Pardon me?
Would you pass?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you.
Oh, was there something you wanted to add in there? Not unfinished business, but I'm just thinking, well, we'll get to it. But you and I were talking about before with respect to the other member. Not here. Michelle.
I mean, we can talk about it. I wasn't planning on talking about it, but we can. The appointed Georgian Bluffs community member has relocated to a neighboring municipality that is not within the detachment community. We just received notice of her resignation from the board, given that she will no longer be eligible to hold her community appointee because she will not live within the community she was appointed to represent.
Resigned officially?
Well, she provided us notice that she will not live in Georgian Bluffs, thereby she is not eligible to hold her Georgian Bluffs community appointee, or her appointment, my apologies. I'm not overly prepared to speak to it today. I think staff are looking at what the best option is to fill that appointment or fill that vacancy, be it either at the board level or through the community appointee selection committee. If you'll recall, that committee was struck just prior to this board getting its feet under itself to appoint the community appointees. So we're still evaluating our options, but that is just as an FYI for the board.
Did she move to Santa Cruz Peninsula?
She did not. She moved to the city of
Point then.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to Brittany. Community appointees, are they for the term of council?
Correct.
Okay. So I guess that's the second question. Do we go through the process when it's going to be short-lived anyways?
Go ahead.
And originally, I think the idea was that the community appointees were going to be found. So like a member like myself that's representing Great Highlands, as that's where I live, may not stay on next term and give the opportunity to a different municipality, like China.
Those decisions go back to the municipality itself.
Well, yes and no. The composition is like the advertisements go out as a whole, right? To get community
That's correct.
members in.
Yeah.
But Chatsworth would have the opportunity to have a community member, I'm just using you as an example, Member Mackey, because you're across from me, right? Over Grey Highlands, like myself, because I've already been on board. So his community would have an opportunity before Member McQueen's community.
Yes, sir.
So going back to process, and Scott, we were part of before we were the board, we actually picked community representative, a collection of people.
That's correct.
So is this individual still in the Grey Bruce area? Actually complete, because that answers that question, that was already asked. So you're correct, then, that will have to come back to this board.
Correct, and that's predominantly why you don't see a staff report in front of you today, because we're still evaluating what our options are. If we're even going to fill the vacancy, as you say, the municipal election is a matter of months away at this point. But all of that will be addressed in a future information report.
I just wanted to let everybody know this is what was going on.
Yes.
Just a quick
13
comment. We do, that list that was there could go back to that list.
That's correct, yes, that is an option.
Okay.
I don't think you're in jeopardy of not making quorum though. So,
But I hope one of the recommendations coming back from staff would be, like, just one of the would be that maybe we don't replace this person. Because it's gonna be June or July by the time they get all their courses and so don't just have how we're gonna replace it. It might be a suggestion to not replace
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, she's left here, but she still owns property.
She still holds property here.
Yeah, like, if I could just raise a question too.
Apparently for 2 more weeks.
Yeah, like, what is the criteria? Is it that their main principal residence must be in that municipality? Or if they're still a property owner, as in this particular case, my understanding, she's moving to Owen Sound. She's not going to Woodstock or Toronto. So she's still in the area and there is still ownership of property in the municipality that she was appointed for, right?
If I may, through you, one of the eligibility criteria that was established upon creation of this board is residency within the detachment community and within the community you are appointed to represent. The city of Owen Sound is not a member of
I
the
understand.
detachment community. If I was not under the impression that this individual was retaining property within the township of Georgian Bluffs, if that's the case, then I'm.
My understanding, having read it, that apparently she will no longer have it be on title within the next X period, 2 weeks or whatever it was.
So why don't we just all agree to take this offline, leave it with staff, and we will come back with options if required.
That's what I want. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Unfinished business, none. Consideration of motions previously given, none. No, sorry, I'm sorry.
I have under inquiries.
Yes, go ahead.
So I was working with staff and how to bring this forward, and this is for information. And I will hand you this for the minutes. The Municipality of Grey Highlands Council has given direction to the municipal staff to begin negotiation for the development of an Ontario Provincial Police OPP regional facility in Markdale. This initiative marks a significant step forward in enhancing public safety infrastructure for the region. At a recent council meeting, members unanimously supported a motion authorizing staff to engage with relevant partners and stakeholders to negotiate the process for building the new OPP detachment. Council further directed staff to prepare and report with comprehensive sustainable project analysis, ensuring all financial, operational, and community impacts are thoroughly evaluated before proceeding. The new facility is proposed to serve as a reporting center for the policing services across Grey and Bruce County, supporting multiple municipalities and potentially expanding services in the future. So I just wanted to point that, because it is public. The municipality of Green Highlands has been working with OPP for about 4 years on a possibility of this happening. This is still in the early days of that process, but it is public, and it was felt that maybe this should be brought forward to this board as for information. So all set to be added to the record, if that needs to be motion.
Through you, Chair Solish, I have a comment to read in to the record as well from member Monica Source. It is, and she apologizes for not being able to attend in person today due to a physical challenge. So I'll just read this verbatim as sent by her. I would like to acknowledge a recent incident where racist and hateful comments were directed toward a public Diwali cultural celebration held in our region. I want to thank Commander Barfoot and the detachment team for responding promptly and professionally. Incidents like this have a very real impact on residents' feelings of safety and belonging, particularly for visible and cultural minority communities. As leaders, it is important that we continue to stand together in making it clear that hate has no place in our communities. I am hopeful that we will continue to see a united commitment across policing, municipalities, and community partners in ensuring that all residents feel safe, respected, and valued. I appreciate the ongoing partnership and look forward to continuing to work on this together.
Thank you. We can move on. We have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So just and maybe not understanding our role, but would this committee have any role or input or feedback to anybody around the initiative that Paul just mentioned? Because that it speaks to how we police, and I know there's the governance. We're not to get into the how situation, but there's an initiative like that, which sounds fairly significant, require us to provide input to the OPP or the commissioner or anybody. I don't know.
So I'm going to defer that to my colleagues here.
And I don't need an answer to that,
but maybe there's a simple, because we were approached.
It's operational.
Yeah.
Agree. It's operational. Yeah.
At this point, right?
Potential.
At this point.
I would expect, I mean, the OPP have made a decision that they need more space, and they thought the best place to locate it based on the geographic area that they cover would be Markdale, which is kind of the center of our catchment area, Inspector Street.
So Staff Sergeant Anderson's been on this project since it kind of started. I'm new to it, so I'll let her speak.
Yeah, I think that strategically where our other two reporting centers are, Markdale made the most sense. It also, we have a restriction of moving officers more than 40 kilometers for the reporting based on, anything over that, we have to pay for a move if they chose to move. So that played into it. Additionally, I mean, nowadays, the way policing's done, officers come to work, they get their onboard computer, they get their cell phones, they go out to their zones, and the detachment area is policed that way. The only time that they really require to come off the road is if they're processing an arrest. So really, it is just, we were in dire need of a new facility, and we needed a facility that was large enough to accommodate an increase in personnel that we're expecting, so that we have better coverage for the whole detachment area.
So I understand that there are certainly significant operational elements of this around where you deploy your offices. I did hear you use the word strategically, and I think that's where I was coming from. Is there a strategic element of this decision? If there isn't, then that's fine. If there is, then I guess this is the table where those strategic elements of that decision would, I assume.
The chair has had to step out for a moment. I assume he's passed the gavel to me.
So the whole purpose of the day is for information for the board.
Yeah.
And I think, was it 2 meetings ago, we had a tour of the Wyerton station, and just to give a bit of an information. So this is sort of in that same breath as the OPP has said. So it's just information. And again, this came out of our last council meeting that we've been working on this for almost 4 years. So it's for information purposes, but it's an operational thing that certainly through the process of the big picture, right? Maybe that 1/3. Remember the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair?
Are we at the end? To be sure, we know when the next regular meeting is?
Yes.
November 21st, 25th, motion to adjourn. Sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'll send my regrets for that meeting now.
Motion by member Mackey, seconded by somebody. Okay, member Wood. Adjourn. Now, there's 5 of us who have to schedule something altogether. Does everybody wants to get going, or do you want?